Hello. Hi, Tadia. Good morning. All right. Hi, Linda. Hi, Rachel. Good morning, Eugenia. And oh, Angie, nice to see you.
Good morning.
All right. Here we go. Everyone head over to the chat. And sign in. And I'm connecting with the second computer. And here we go. All right. Letting myself in as well. All right. How are you guys staying cool? In fact, that reminds me, turn on the fan. There we go. I had to move the fan off the other day from next to my computer, and then I came to teach. And I didn't know, anyway, one of the kids had borrowed it, and it was, I spent the whole class sweating. So I don't make that mistake again. So I brought it in last night. Anyway. All right, here we go. I'm trying to get into VDI. The VDI has been behaving horribly. As the Creative Cloud keeps getting more powerful, it's harder and harder to keep up with the needs for VDI. Okay. Yeah, it's becoming harder to get it to work. Anyway, here I'm quitting Safari. So anyway, I saw you guys did a lot of posting in the Padlet. That's really cool. I'm having to do the sign in. I was trying to do this before we started. The sign in for the VDI always has this number now, 851-236. I had it open, and then when I forget to put it in immediately, then it sends me another one because I didn't do it fast enough. Anyway, so let me share my screen to point out the Illustrator posts. You guys have been working hard. That oh, it's on this one. I tend to do two different computers and then it confuses. Here we go. All right. I need to put this one up behind it and make it a bit smaller so the two windows match. There we go. Now let's go over to this one. Yeah, so great stuff. People posting things, asking questions. Is this the freshest one? I think so. So remember that you were given a bunch of images and told to try to work on imitating them, right? So it looks like everyone really liked this sunset scene. So we got some good work. Here it says, oh, I didn't see this one. Oh, because it's 10 minutes ago. Not finished on set. I still need to figure out how to work with the gradient colors. I would like to learn the palm trees gradients. Okay, so there we go. Look at that. You have, oh, I see. Yes, you have, well, you have a good gradient going on the sand and on the ocean. So, or on the sky, I mean. So maybe this one to blur the edges of the shadow, the shine, I guess, the reflection here of the shine in the original picture is blurry. And I don't think I've taught you about that effect where you get to make that your selection kind of fade out gently. Okay. So that then you can have a good transition here. Just put a regular gradient on that. So that's a good point. So we're going to go in and look at those effects right now. Okay. And then you said something about the gradient on the palm tree. I'll go see the original because I don't remember right now what the gradient is, but I'll see it. I think there's two other people who have the palm tree. So let me look it over here. Okay, so I see this is the gradient that you're talking about. Okay, so this is just basically a light brown to a dark brown. So the gradient itself isn't the issue. It's just that behind it, it has another tree that's exactly the same. It's copied, the same object copied, and then just shifted over just a tad, a few pixels over to the right, and it's filled with a yellow, I don't know if it's a gradient or just a yellow image. And so it gives you that little extra shine. But this is the softness that I was talking about, that kind of diffuses that thing that's in the background, right? So that's the one that we're probably talking about. And then, so that's the original. And then over here, you're doing a great job beginning on that. I didn't know the name of whose this one is. I'm sorry, when I turn it off, I'll see. And then you're working on the outline of the shapes. Okay, so you're on your way here. Who's doing that? That was Linda. And then you're working on a different one here and here. Let me jump over to the next beach here. Let me see, Angie. Okay, and so here's the original. And Angie, you're also beginning. You've got your shapes going on here, your background, and your sand. Okay, so it's all happening. It's all working. You're still needing to work on it a little bit more. You have a border around yours. Okay, so that's what you did. Does this one have a border? So this one has a black stroke. And I was going to say maybe the stroke could be yellow, but not really, because in the original, the stroke isn't necessarily yellow. It's just like it's shifted to the right. So it's not really a stroke, because it could be that you would just give, that make that stroke yellow, but that's not really what's happening there. So the object itself doesn't have a stroke. It's really like two objects, one on top of the other, a brown one with a gradient and a yellow one moving to the right. And by the way, it's fine not to be exactly the same colors. You can choose exactly the same colors from here with the eyedropper, or you could put your own gradient like she did, and that's fine, as long as you use gradients and you work with the style. You can have your own version of events. All right, so that's it for the beach, I believe. I think that's it for the beach. Okay, and then over here we have a couple of other shapes. Saul, who already worked on this one, and he does he worked on two different the other beach and the other umbrella, and you did an amazing job. I had to search for a while to see what were the difference. Remember those things that you see on the newspaper or the comics in the past, like where's the difference or something like that. I was like searching, going back and forth. So anyway, this is the original one here, and then this is his version. And there's a tiny bit of a difference over here. He actually made like a little rock path and things like that. It's kind of cute, and made a bit of a different kind of swirl for the water, but lovely, amazing. And then I like that you just went ahead and made a plant and put little rock kind of surroundings and things like that. But yeah, great job. Here's the only thing that I want to comment. Saul, are you here? Is Saul here yet? Because if Saul's not here, okay, he's not. Oh, he said he had to go to, he had an appointment today. Okay, I wanted to make a pump, so let me just show it to you guys, but I'll actually teach it to him again. Did you notice that the lines here are pretty straight up and down, right? I mean, I'm blowing it up really big so you can see, but it's straight lines. And notice that in this one, there's like a little jaggediness, and you can see it only because it's a bad pixel, but that's because it's not perfectly straight lines. They're a little bit in diagonal. So later when he comes back, I'll show that. But I mean, when you look at it without it being expanded, like I'm showing you, it still looks like straight lines, but there's a trick to that, and I'll show him. But amazing. Since he's not here, I'll just really quickly show you this one that he also did. And then he goes over here. If you guys want to do that yin yang, he explained all the steps over here to make a yin yang. So it's pretty cool. So if you want to follow these steps and make the little yin yang, then he went ahead and made something else, because that's just what he does. And then over here, Linda, you're working on the shapes for the beach scene.
Yes.
And
that's what I tried first.
Yeah, very cool. So look at that wonderful leaf. I see that it has, great shapes, and you've got that that little line going down the middle. Now the only difference in these leaves is that at some point they change the color on either side for a reflection. So do you need help with that, or is that you're okay, or is that one shape? Because if it's one shape, you might not be able to do that. It's like you need to kind of cut it down the middle and
Yeah,
have it be half and then join them, and then have one have lighter and one darker when you
yeah.
get around to it.
Shape builders are a little difficult.
I
Yeah.
can't hear you. What's up?
Shape builder is difficult.
I know. Well, if you want help, that's what I'm saying. I can see that you're there. Look, you made a great shape. If you want some help with how to make this be now half and half, I'm happy to give you a hand. So when you guys are in the midst of doing this kind of stuff, this is great to tell me where you've had, where you got stopped, what stopped you, what your, how to proceed, like what would I do, whatever, in order to keep going. Please ask me. That's exactly the kind of stuff that I'd love you to bring to class and say, and I'm only going by this because this is the only thing I have to go right now here, is by how would I make this leaf have, see what I mean, you guys? By each one of these leaves has a lighter version of itself and a darker version on the other side, with that light thing in the middle that she's already got. And so that's when you have just one shape in the bottom and this one on top, then that bottom shape has the same color. So this itself has to be duplicated, and then you cut half of it out. So we can go and practice that if you want. And if not, if you figure, oh, I see what you're saying, then we won't do it. But if you want us to practice it, I'm happy to practice it with you. But yeah, wonderful. Did I skip anything? No, looks like that's what you guys posted. Let me refresh in case someone posted something else. I know. Oh, I think. No, that's just Tadia. That's, you had just done it. Okay. So great. Let's go back to Illustrator then. And if there's any questions in particular about anything that you tried, please let me know. And remember that this is if you just do the things I'm teaching you, you'll learn a lot. If you start trying to do these things, you'll really learn, because then you'll have, it's kind of like you're flying solo, right? The little bird being pushed out of the nest, where it's like, I know the mechanic is flapping, but I have to actually flap right now. I'm making you guys flap your wings, okay? And stay afloat. All right, so we're gonna start with a new file again. Let's head over to Illustrator, create a new file. And we're going to go with the same thing that we've been creating, which at this point is like 5 by 5 by 4 inches. It's automatically there. The last thing you've made will always be there. If for any reason yours isn't that set up that way, go ahead and make a 5 by 5 inches with 4 artboards, and let's say create. And I'm still signing into the VDI. It's popped me out a few times already, but it looks like this time it did let me in. So give me a real quick second to sign into I have a band-aid and I keep clicking all the keys next to me versus only the ones I need. All right, great. And I'm going to start with the one that's in my computer anyway, but meanwhile, this is a good time to just get Illustrator open in the background in case I have to demo something in Illustrator. All right, so we're gonna do a couple more things here that I still want to show you, and then we're gonna begin working on some of on one of these files that I've told you guys to draw. Maybe we'll choose one that no one else has chosen yet, so that we can work on something different while you guys keep working on your own. But first I wanted to show you a few, just a couple more things about text. So let me head back in a second here to the dashboard just to make sure we haven't done I'm pretty sure we didn't do all the text outline and following paths, but yeah, no, I'm sure for a second there I went, wait a minute, because I know I show some digital design people things that I haven't shown here. So I wanted to make sure. All right. So we're going to work a little bit with text. Let's go ahead and get a type tool here. It's just two very specific things that we're going to do with shaping and then with outlining. So let's go ahead and do you remember we didn't do any type here yet? No, we did some type work. No. All right, so then I'm gonna have to do a little bit more than I thought. I spent so much time with type the other day that I thought part of it had been here, but it was all with the digital design techniques. Okay, so then Illustrator has two ways of working with the type tool. And it depends on how you start your tool. So I'm gonna, one way is to just simply click, right? And when you click, that's all, you just click. Then this, hold on, I need to move this in the way because I forgot that I'm on, I thought I was on the PC, but I'm on the VDI. So let me start that one again. Okay, so when you simply click, this interesting set of words, lorem ipsum, comes out, and lorem ipsum is two words in Latin. It's a text that people have used from eons, from the beginning of when I was doing design, even by hand without the computers, and I'm talking, 35 years ago. So I don't even know when it started, but eons ago. Because most people don't know Latin, right? And so when you don't have the text that you're going to be using, and you need to create a brochure, you don't know yet what you're going to write in it, you can just use this filler space text in order to create your designs and your shapes and your things. A lot of times you're having to design something before you get the final copy from your client or yourself. And so that's why all these applications, when you need to put filler text, the placeholder text, so to say, it's this Latin text that's a really antique text from who knows when. It's a medieval text or something that drops in. Anyway, long explanation, but that's what lorem ipsum are, the first two words of that text. And so when you first click, it's highlighted. It's not that we chose a background that's black and white letters. It's just that the first click has this highlighted, because when something is highlighted, it's ready to be replaced by your own text. So now we're going to write a line of text, and anything you want to write. I'm just going to go with whatever I'm saying. I'm going to write, and you see I start writing without deleting that, and my text replaces that lorem ipsum, whatever I'm saying, so that I can show you how to use this feature, which is called a point type. So I kept writing and writing and writing, but it's been a while since you didn't see what I wrote anymore, right? Because see how it keeps going and going and going. And in order, I'm going to move back to my move field for my selection tool here. And then I can show you how this kept going and going and going. Now I made a typo here. Please keep writing a bit more and make some typos. I should have told you from the beginning, make some typos. I should have made a few more. When I don't want to make typos, I make them, and then I wanted to make some typos and I ended up making only one. But anyway, so point type keeps going and going. As you can see, it doesn't adapt. It ends the page and it just like has no knowledge of wrapping itself and things like that. I'm going to go ahead and go back guys to your move or selection tool. And then when you do that, it has a bounding box, right? And you can move it back and forth, but it still doesn't rewrap itself. I'm going to put it kind of up here on the corner. I'm going to let it be for a bit. I'm going to click away, and then we're going to play around with it. And now I'm going to grab the type tool again. And this type, instead of just clicking to write, I'm going to start over here, and I'm going to drag and make an area box for my type. Okay, and I said in type, area type is what this is called. And this time we're going to leave the Latin there for a little bit, and I'm going to click away. And this time the text filled that whole shape that I drew. So the only difference was if you simply click and you write, it kind of goes on and on and on. And if you make the area, then the placement or the Latin lorem ipsum, see, it starts with lorem ipsum again, keeps filling up that space. All right, now move over to the selection tool. Once the text has been written, we kind of leave the type tool. And let me show you the bigger differences. First of all, with the selection tool, when you click this text, you can manipulate the shape and size of this border of this bounding box, and you can rewrap the text. Okay, if I make by the time I make it bigger than I had, I'm run out. See, the placement text, the placeholder text only goes as far as it did, and then I make the box even bigger. There's nothing there because that's as far as the text, the placement text got you. So hopefully you guys made a pretty big box here, because I'm going to show you quite a few things with that. But when you make the box smaller, the first line, it's not like it's breaking off. And this is the part we're not understanding what it says. It's hard to tell, but this is lorem ipsum dolor sit amet consecutor. If I go like that, you'll see consecutor goes up there. So it does rewrap, right? If this were something that we could understand, it is keeping the sentence structure. I'm going to make it big again. Let me show you now this other one. I'm going to head over to this other one. And when I select it and I have this bounding box that I can play with, when I try to make it bigger, whoops, I'm distorting the text. It is a completely different creature. They're both typed, but it operates very differently. I'm going to remind you guys that to undo this is Command Z or Control Z, because we don't want to keep the font distorted. And it's hard to, if you try to just bring it back yourself, you'll never know what's correct. So just undo Command Z to come back to having the font look the way it should look. And same as here, if I were to try to, make it smaller, it's just seems a bit less distorted, but I'm just compressing it, right? And doing this thing, which is might be a fun effect, but it is certainly not making this text more readable. So again, I'm going to undo. So what is each one of these good for? Well, point type is the one that we typically use when you're working on, either a small headline, 2 words, a sentence, a logo, not a sentence, a logo, like the name of a business, stuff like that. An art piece that I'm going to turn some text into art. And then this is when you actually have text that needs to be written, as long as it's longer than a few lines and it becomes a sentence, you need to be able to make it wrap or go up or under. Then you're going to need to have area type. Again, the only difference is how you start from scratch from the beginning. Now, there is one thing you can do. If you made a mistake and you wanted area type, I'm grabbing it from the top and moving it down. If you point type and wrote some stuff in there and you really wanted it to rewrap, you can head over to this little kind of antenna thingy that's sticking out there on the right side of the type box. And when you click on that, it says double click to convert to area type. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to double click. And now it's been converted. Now that little thing that was white is blue. Now I can rewrap it. See that? So that has converted to area type. Now, for better or for worse, you can do this one way, once, right? Now make this be a little box like this. Go ahead and do that. Please stop me if at some point you're not following or you're not able to do the same thing I'm doing. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me to continue. Trying to connect. All right, so here what I did is I rewrote, I rewrapped this one. And technically, I could do this again. I could double click this to become point type again, which I am going to. I'm going to double click this one more time. See, there you go. It became area type, it became point type again. But here's the problem. If I now try to, you know, re-stretch it or whatever, it's not going to, right? It's doing the same thing as before. It's not working. If you ever do, I'm going to Command Z, Command Z. If you ever do this and you do end up wanting to stretch it out, it's treating this as if it were an object. This is a bounding box as if it were an object when it's point type. And I should hope that I should hold on to the shift key to make it bigger, just so that it keeps itself proportional. Okay, that's all I'm saying. That said, it still is keeping it as font, because if I go over here to the right side, we can see that right now I have it at 9.38 points. If I click and drag this and make it bigger, it's telling me it's 1704 points. You know, I can keep making it bigger, 27 points. So it is working. It is making my text bigger. And in fact, it is still type. So if I were to go in there to fix this typo, it'll work. What it can't do is rewrap. So then you'd think, oh, well, I should just turn it into area type again for it to rewrap. So I'm going to try that again, and I'm going to double click again. But at this point, when I try to rewrap, it just doesn't anymore, because by now you've lost, it keeps wrapping, but you've lost, because what Illustrator does is it's created like return little, like, you know, return lines in here. And so it doesn't work. So if anyone's ever had this happen before, the only way to fix this is you truly have to, well, either you can undo if you just did it, or you go in with your type tool, click on the type tool again, and then you have to delete these returns. So I can go in front of the W, click my cursor in there. Okay, so if this is my cursor, I'll put my cursor in front of the W, and then I'll hit my delete key so that it deletes that return. And in front of the saying, and I'm gonna delete that return. In front of the S, and I'm gonna delete that return. See what I'm trying to do? I have to get rid of these spaces that got created so that now I can kind of rewrap it again. So normally you wouldn't do this. This is kind of like a fail safe of how to fix it, but you wouldn't. Normally what you should do is, if you didn't make it into point type from the beginning, you're just going to want to convert it to area type. Other than that, just rewrite it. You know what I mean? Because it's just much more of a headache. And it's okay if you did or didn't, if you didn't do all of this, just showing you that they're very, very different things that happen when you have point type versus area type, so that you're not surprised. But at this point, yeah, now that I've made it into area type again, I'll double click, and now it's point type again, and it's back to being distorted. So I went back and forth and back and forth. Just if this got messed up for you, which it could have the first time you do it, it's like, what do you mean? What are you doing? Just delete it and write again one long line. And by the way, I never corrected my typo. For that, I do need to grab the type tool again, because that actually operates the letters themselves. And I'm going to click in there, and I'm going to put in this little typo. If you had another, you know, if this would have been chow, you put it in there and write chow, et cetera, et cetera. So you really have to get in there and select stuff. Okay. I'm going to write, instead of whatever, I'm going to select it and just write this, that I am saying, right? So you can do corrections in this text mode. Now over here, if we were to try to do any corrections in the text mode with type tool, then you can go in here and delete individual letters and continue. So when you have to change the data that you're working with, you'll use the type tool. But other than that, what we do is we use the selection tool to change other stuff about the text. So now let's grab either one of these. Let's start with this area type tool. I'm going to make it selection, and I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to make this font bigger. So I'm going to make this be, I don't know, 21 or 24 points or something like that. Make it really big. And it got bigger, but it also doesn't fit in my box anymore. Oh. Oh yeah, I see you writing. Somehow I look to the right. Your direct select tool isn't resizing the text box. Okay. I don't know how long ago you wrote that. I've been gone. Yada yakety yakety. If you not the direct select tool. No. The selection tool, the black one, Linda.
I meant selection tool. It's
Okay.
just not functioning, so I think it's maybe the system.
Well, which one are you trying to modify?
Either one, it just doesn't
Okay.
pull it out.
So
Or
you
do I
have
need
to grab it from the little boxes, not from other areas. So see how there's
Okay.
a little handle here? It's from the little handle only that it would work. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so I didn't point that. So if you point to the little handle, then you'll see it. Is that working now or not?
I'll try it again.
So select, yeah, there's so few of us exactly that you're more than welcome to speak up. So all of these, I should have said that, I'm sorry. You can't just grab you grab the path, you move it. You don't actually modify it. You have to grab from these little handles. Just like when we had objects, that the handles are the part that activates it. But in an object, I guess you can also grab their paths. So in that sense, it makes sense. Did that work now, Linda?
It isn't showing handles, so there's something going on.
When
I
you
can change sizes of
so
type.
when you select the text first, then
Right.
you don't see the sizes.
I don't see the handles, but I'll keep trying.
Well, if that's not working, something's actually wrong. Do you want to try to share your screen so I can help you with this? Hi, Cheyenne. Nice to see you.
Hi, Deanna. Thank you.
Okay, if you're trying to share, don't share yet, because since I'm sharing, you can't share until I stop sharing. Let me just catch Cheyenne up for a second. So Cheyenne, this is just what we did, and then I'm going to have Linda share her screen to help you. But start a new document, and then with the type tool, there's two ways to set type. One is just by simply clicking, and then you can write whatever you're going to write. So we just wrote stuff here, right? And then keep going. When you keep writing, it keeps going. Like it doesn't wrap itself. And the other way is to click and drag and make a box in which placeholder text drops in there, and that one you can rewrap. Okay, so this is area type and this is point type. So if just do one of each of those, and then I'll catch you up to whatever we're doing here. I'm going to stop my share. Okay, Linda, can you try to share your screen, see if we can figure out what's happening?
Here's what happened. My VM view got undetached. It's not a tab anymore. It's separate for some reason before class. So I don't know if I have it in the realm to share. That's what's weird.
Let's go ahead and do this. Go to the share screen, and then we'll see the windows that pop up. If one of those shows you your VM views, can you just click on the big green?
Yeah, I'll share. Okay, there we go.
And then in those that pop up, do you see one that might have your Illustrator? Those little windows?
I believe so. That one.
Okay.
Okay.
And
allow.
Now click on the share button at the bottom right of that screen that you're seeing.
It says allow. Is that correct?
It says what?
Allow.
But did you click the second share button, the one that's blue with white letters?
It's different. We'll try this.
Got it. Okay. It's working.
It says allow.
It's working. Okay. So let me see. Okay, so go and grab your selection tool now. Yep. And those are your boxes. Yeah. So hold on, because delete this one, because when you made it, it wasn't big enough to do any wrapping. Hit the delete key. It deletes. Okay. And now let's go to the click and drag and make it, click and drag and make it really big, really big. Keep going down to the bottom of your page. Yeah, well, yeah. And let go. Okay, so that one filled up. Now go back and grab your selection tool. Okay, and now, yeah, you don't have. Okay, so stop for a minute. Yeah, you're missing the selection tools. How interesting. The handles. You are missing them on all of them. So let's see. That is weird. And then the top one, click on the top one. Okay, I've never seen. Okay, so let's head over to your preferences. Something's weird here. Why wouldn't you have your, yeah, file and then go down to edit, 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 go, stop, cancel,
Go to edit.
that one, yeah. And at the very bottom, preferences, there we go. And let's go to selection and anchor display. Let's try with that one to start with. Anchor points and selection shape and tools. I'm looking at mine to see what it should be. I think you should be, hold on, I need to open mine too to compare. But snap 2 points. I'm comparing yours to mine to see if there's something there. Hide corner widgets, no. It's looking exactly the same as my preferences.
Is there a box set or some?
Well, that's why I'm comparing to mine. These are set exactly the same as mine. Let's head down to guides and grids, maybe. No, plugin scratches, hyphenation, user interface. I wouldn't think it's in user interface. It would have been there in selection and anchor display. Everything you have is set up exactly like mine, so that's not helping. Go back to selection and anchor display. The topmost one. Show anchor points and selection tool and shape tools would be the only one that I might think. Try that one. The second, see that there's under tolerance. Try that. I mean, mine is unlocked.
This one?
Try that. That's all I can think of. And then go move it up, and at the bottom it would say okay, so you need to move it up a bit.
Okay, sometimes it
there
chops it off.
And the changes you make in there, though, unfortunately happen after
I'll do that. I'll do that.
So close your
Should I save it before I close? Or?
No, there's nothing worth. This is too simple to do again. So don't say exit. Yeah, close the file, say no, and then let's open Illustrator again. So close, not the file, no, Illustrator, restart Illustrator. So go over, quit Illustrator, way over on the very far right, X.
You mean just go?
Or Control Q or exit at the bottom of file.
Just exit.
Bottom, Just restart.
Just restart it. Okay, that's a good idea.
I don't know if that'll help. You don't need to restart via VDI at this point. It's just try Illustrator, and if not, then that's a weird glitch because I've never seen that. In which case, then
thank you.
Nothing I can do about it. All right. And thanks, Rachel, for pointing out that she was writing. Yeah, and yes, if there's only 4 or 5 of us, please go ahead and speak up if there's anything that's not working. I mean, that was truly not working like I was showing you, then please let me know. Okay, so Cheyenne, did you get your, I'm going to stop your share now then, so you can do whatever you need. Do you need any help catching up, Cheyenne, or are you kind of there?
I think I'm there, the text box.
Got it. All right, so I'm going to do it in my VDI. This is my VDI. I haven't been using VDI just to see if perchance the same thing happens to me. That way, maybe it's something with the app. 5x5 and 4. Let me say create. certainly very slow. Hello. Wow. Yeah. They need to do something to fix VDI. Look at how slow to just open up a file. Okay, let me just do this quickly. If I click and drag to write something, writing something, and then I'm going to go over here and click and drag, and yeah, I still have the handles, see? So no, it's not VDI, it's something that was happening to your VDI, VDI. Anyway, hopefully it stops happening. Other than that, let me zoom in here. I'm going to continue here for a little bit since I'm here. And I just wanted to show this again to Cheyenne, because I showed you something, but I don't know how much I showed you. This is when I start having issues with VDI, because my shortcuts are not wanting. They're not happy with me having a Mac keyboard. It's not responding to my shortcuts. There we go. All right. So what I was saying is that this point type distorts if you try to grab it from those boxes that now Linda doesn't have, right? And that this one here rewraps. That's the main thing. There's more I showed you, but about this, you can go look at how to change point type to area type later in the recording. But right now, that's the two main things. So Linda, let me know when you are started again, what's happening, if it's changed. All right. So now,
It hasn't changed.
It hasn't changed, huh? I don't know what to say other than, okay. So then one
Restart
last thing.
video.
No. One last thing. Close your thing, and whether to save, say no. One last thing I'm going to ask you to do is head up here to edit preferences, general, and then go here to reset preferences. Reset all your preferences. It won't change until you restart Illustrator, but that resets every single preference in the entire thing. In case that was it, that's the first thing you would do. And then you'd say, okay. And then instead of restarting now, okay, instead of doing that, don't say restart now, say cancel. We are going to restart. We're going to do something else. We're going to hit cancel. Close it on your own. Guys, this is for everyone. When a program starts doing weird stuff like that, like something's really wrong. This is not that she's not handling correctly or something like that. So you want to do this. You want to, first of all, reset your preferences, but then when you open it, and I've never done it from this on a PC, so hopefully it works. When I go back to open it, before I click, right, before I start, then you go down to your keyboard and you go Shift, Control, Option, and Command. Like you have Alt instead of, you'll have Shift, Control, Alt. If you have a delete, I think you have to hold a delete key there for the PC as well. I'm not sure. And then when you click on the Mac, you don't need a PC, but I don't have a delete nearby on my Mac keyboard. But if you have a PC keyboard and you have a delete key, hold that one as well. So hold down all those keys. Oh, no, I didn't want to disconnect. There we go. So when you hold all of those, then you go and open up the program, right? And say, okay, since I have a PC keyboard, my control isn't doing this. So on a PC keyboard, on a Mac keyboard, it doesn't seem to be happening. Ideally, what you have in here when it starts to open is a message that says, see, it's not. I can't do it on a Mac keyboard. On a PC keyboard, I would have right next to me the Shift, Control, Alt, Delete, right? It's Alt, Control, and Delete, and Shift. And then you start it and it reset. It says, should I start resetting all of yada, yada? You'll say yes to it. And then it'll reset everything. at this point, at least it reset the preferences. And then when you open the new file, hopefully this time it'll be working for you. And if it isn't, then we'll just have to keep it as is, because I can't, So thanks for joining us, you guys. I'm just Linda was having an issue, and so I was trying to help her overcome that problem, and now I'll continue sharing where we were at. So we're working with Illustrator text, and let me head back here where I'm going to zoom down a little bit. So that would that thing that I just showed Linda should work for everyone, as far as when you close Illustrator completely and then you hold down all those keys, when you start it again, it restarts saying, should I reset everything? Like, should I go back? Should I reset the preference? It's all the settings, and you say yes, and it starts as if you had just installed it again. Linda, your hand was up.
Yes, I now show the handles because I reset and restarted Illustrator.
And it's showing the handles now?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yay, that fixed it. Yeah. So at the very least, doing all the resetting of everything, because who knows what was missing right there and what was happening. So sometimes you just need to clean up your entire document. There was something there. All right, great. That worked then. Hi, Catherine. We are working on two types of text. You might know this already, that there's point type and area type. Is this something that you're aware of already? Okay, so just really quickly show it to you guys again. I'm going to go over here. If you just click with the type tool and start writing something, it will replace the lorem ipsum text, and I keep writing, right? And as you notice, it doesn't rewrap itself. It just keeps going. That's point type. And then I'm gonna go to the type tool again. So clean it up, like go to the selection tool for a second. And then this kind of text, when you try to select the handles, it destroys, it distorts, it treats it as if we're an object, okay, as if it were a shape that you're messing with and distorting. So this is good for headlines, or I'm gonna Command Z each time, because you can't like find the right way to make it look good again. You always have to undo when you do this, but it is still text. Like if I have to type in the type tool and fix something, it does, it's still type. And in fact, if you select your selection tool, which is what we're going to do, and you notice here that it says 24 points. If I hold my shift key now to distort it correctly and make it bigger, it became 29 points. If I hold the shift key corner and make it smaller, I've made it 9 points. So it is text. You just can't, rewrap your type, right? So it works for headlines, for logos, which is what we're going to do today, for art, for that kind of thing. But when you want to rewrite a bunch of text, you have to click and drag your type tool to create area text. And now with the selection tool, you can, yes, rewrap that text willy-nilly. Okay, so now that I've shown this a few times, I'm gonna delete these two that I just showed again, because I have them up here, because we had first made these with 12 points, I believe was how they first came. And now we had just changed the font size on this one. So guys, select the second one, make your font bigger over here. We had made it 24, 48, just not ridiculously big, so we see some of it. So, 24 sounds good. And notice now that there was a lot of text in there that I can't see anymore. So when I had, 6 points, for example, I saw it all, and that's where it ended. That's as much as I got. But when I go up to 11 or 12 points, it still is all fitting. The last letter, the last word I have is this ut. And this little box here is white. The moment I make my font any bigger, and I go to like 18, 21, 24, this little box that's right next to there shows up red. This is called the overset text box. And for some people who were in my digital design techniques class, I showed this to them the other day. And this is exactly the same in Illustrator, where you have that little red box. It just means that there's more text in this box that I can't see anymore. It's outside of this area. So if I want to be able to see that text, I would have to go in there with always with my selection tool, click on that little red box right there. And like the tip of my mouse has to be right on it. And then it picks up the text. See how now I have text, that little box on my type. And now I can click and drag again. And I'm going to put like this little box right here and more type connected to that one. Then there's more still. I still see a little red box. So I click more, and then I can go over here and make a little tiny box. So there's still more, and I'm going to pick it up again, and I'm going to make a big box. And at this point, I probably still have more. All right. And so on and so forth. Oops, I still have more. All right. So here's the point. These are threads showing me that where this ends, it continues here. Or when this ends, it continues there, and so on and so forth. So the most interesting thing is that if I now were to watch for a minute, even if you're doing your own boxes, just watch what I'm about to do. These are threaded. And if I were to grab this little handle here and expand it, then it begins to take text from the others. If instead I make it smaller, it pushes it away into the others. They're all connected. So the text flows back and forth from box to box. Isn't that cool? I'm going to make that, whoops. I'm going to make this when that text goes into that, this text goes into that. And if I go in the bottom of this one and make it as big as I can, finally I got to the end of it. Finally, I have nothing. See how it's a white box? That's what I needed. And so now my last two lines are the same ut, and there's a little white box here. So this is as big as it can get. There's no more text. But if I go over here and make the first one big again, then see how my last line finally fit into there, and so on and so forth. Okay, so it's kind of fun to see it doing this whole rewriting, pushing it one way or another. All right, so if this is working for you, give me a good old green check mark. Yes, if you have any questions to make this happen, please let me know. And by the way, this order follows itself. So say if by mistake I grab this one and I move it down here and I put this one up there, right, which is a mess, right? But the thread still follows. So if this is still the last line, this is not. If I make it small, it still all works in the same order. So be careful when moving your boxes that you have the order in which it may be. So what this helps is if you have text that's in one page and has to go to another page or to the back side or something. Now, we do this a lot more in something like InDesign, where we're going to create big documents, right? But in Illustrator, sometimes you're going to have text in a brochure, in a poster that is a one-page thing that might still need to do this. So this is the threaded text. If you have any questions, if it didn't work, if you need help, give me a holler. I'm seeing a couple of yeses up there. Cheyenne, Linda, Rachel, how's it going for you? All right, Angie.
I have a question.
Yes, Linda.
Is there a feature called something like Edit Story in InDesign in Illustrator?
Is there a feature what?
A feature similar to Edit Story that is in InDesign.
Edit Story.
Yeah.
Not the same, because this isn't where you would do a lot of text.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's something similar, but no. Good point. Since I always do all my big font, since I always do my big text in InDesign, it never occurred to me to look in here. It might be, but I'd have to do I'd Google that because I don't know. So it's a feature that InDesign has, but that's where you really work with a lot of text versus Illustrator. So I'm kind of, don't know. Let me show you a couple more goodies about this. And then we're going to move into making some art and some other, one more type tool, which is following a path, right? So we're going to do that. But first, let me just show you that when you want to change the entire box, the entire text on this whole box, and you select it with your selection tool, you can do that. We can keep working on a font, you can change so many things, not just text. And as long as they are threaded and you are selecting them with a selection tool, then over here on this one that is just one box, if I were to go to the fill here and make it pink, it changes the text pink. This is different for people who've done this with me similarly in InDesign. In InDesign, you have to choose the box or the frame or whatever. In Illustrator, it doesn't care about the frame. So you just do the fill and it works on the text. And I'm just saying because a couple of you guys are in my InDesign class where I had to show you the difference there. Over here now, if I select the first box, and these are all threaded, right? And I try to change the color, then it doesn't work through the whole thread. It only changed the one box that I selected. You see that? Same thing if I were to go ahead and change the font to a different font style, to something really different, it only worked on the one box. But then how come I see some going into the second box? You see that? I'm telling you that it only worked on the first box, but yet something moved into the second box. Anyone want to venture a thought as to why?
Because it's the thread of the words.
Yeah, but I showed you that when I'm not selecting those, I'm only selecting this one. And when I tried to get it to change color, let me go back, it only worked on one box, right? It only did it on one box. So that means that the threads didn't work. If this were InDesign, is different. InDesign, it's a whole different thing what InDesign does. So there's things that are the same, things that are different. And as I said, some of you guys are in both. So if it only worked on the first one, how come when I changed the font and I went ahead and changed the font to this, it seems to have gone into the second one?
Fonts are all different. Point sizes are just vary.
Yeah, there's still 24 points, but Chelsea Market Pro 24 points is bigger than Myriad Pro. And so it doesn't have space to fit in here. So it pushes itself onto the next one. But it's not that it changed the second block. It's just that it doesn't fit in here anymore. Do you see what I mean? So that's why. But it didn't affect the second block. Let me undo this again. The first word in this block was the word dolor. The last one was irure or whatever. So when I changed the font, there's dolor is still black and small, and irure is the one that changed color and changed font. Okay, it was the contents of the first one that just need to push itself out to rewrap into the next one. All right. So if you really want all of them to change at the same time, you would have to do a select all the boxes, right? So if I select every one of the boxes, which remember, just like edit, like if they were shapes, you can click and drag like that, select them all. Then if you make a change in color to orange, everything should change orange. And if it changed in font to something else, then everything will change. So you need to change the boxes that you want by selecting them all. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and delete all these extra boxes and stay only with the first one. And no, you didn't delete the text. All you deleted were the boxes that hold the text, because if you click on this little box, the text is still there. See, all you do is delete the box that's holding it. As long as you don't delete the first one, the text is still there in that little box. Now, if I do try to change only this one, right? I'm going to go back to, I don't know, green, something very different. And I don't know, something very different, a little thingy right there. Now, if I click on this and drag it out, it does come out in this one just because it wasn't there. So it doesn't, you know, there's nothing else to select. So the font follows that stuff that I did the first time. Now that they're separate though, again, if I were to change something, it would change only on the first one. Okay. And again, it changed all the way through because it's so much bigger, but not because the other two are selected. If I were to make it smaller, it would work, making it smaller only on the first box, not on the rest. So it can become pretty messy. So just be aware that when you have your text in a few different boxes, you have to change them all. This works though, because how many times have you seen that, like something on the first page is a big headline and you make it big and fancy, and then you say continued on page 2, and then on the page 2 it's a whole little column of small text just to finish the article. You know what I mean? And you don't want it to have the same font at that point. You want it to have a different font because it's in page 2. So in this way you can separate what you do. All right, I'm going to get rid again of these two and show you one last thing with regards to threaded text. I'm going to click away, don't select anything, like have no selection on anything. And now let's make a shape. So I'm going to grab an ellipse tool here, a circle. And I'm going to make a little circle here, which I guess since my last fill was green, it's coming out as green. That's when I painted my text green. That's okay. Okay, so whenever you're here and ready to go, let me know. I'm going to go ahead and make this font a bit smaller so that I have more to sample. So I'm going to go ahead and make it maybe 15 points or something like that. I seem to have two different font sizes. Just made it a little bit smaller so that I can have a bit more font in it. Okay, so does everyone have a separate circle somewhere? And it doesn't matter the color or whatever, it just came out green because I had to fill green. Now let's go and pick up this text again, right? That we've been doing it from the little overset text box. And now watch. I'm going to, actually I need to select this one first. I apologize. First, you need to select this guy with the selection tool. Then head over to this little pink or line there and pick up the text. And then watch what, maybe I need to make this a bit bigger. Green is a bad shape because you can't see, but you see my over here, I have the same thing I had before, like the square lines in the text. And what, oh, you can't see it. Hold on, I'm going to change the color of this because it's so dark you can't see it. Let me change this to a light fill. Okay, let me do that again. I just couldn't show you what I was trying to show you because it was so dark. Okay, so select my text and watch. Over here, I get like two square lines with my text. If I point on the inside, the same. But look what happens when I touch the path. So it kind of wraps it in like a parentheses. Do you see what I mean? The little tiny icon of my text here has two square lines, and this has two square lines. But when I touch the path, do you see like parentheses wrapping in the little icon? If I were to now click, my text fills that space. But you need to click it when your shape has the little parentheses in it. So I'm going to do that again. Outside, if I click, it's just another text drag, right? Inside, same thing, it's another text drag. You need to touch the path of the other shape for it to drop the text inside. So it tries to fill whatever shape you're filling. Now, in this case, it's not that it looks necessarily that good. And by the way, did you notice that we disappeared? We don't have the fill and everything. We just have the shape. Not all text and not all font size is good for filling a shape like this. And go a bit smaller, it helps a little bit more. But you know, you get the idea. If you really were to want to fill a circle, you would have to probably center the text and not have these you know, big lines from paragraph separation and stuff like that. But that's, you can fill a shape with text and any kind of shape. The problem is if you had a shape kind of like a star, because some people try to do that, It's not that you can't fill a star shape, but here, let me get rid of that and put in a star shape. But what happens with something like this, and let me make it a little bit smaller, is that when you drop the text in there, it's very hard. Oh, pick it up. It's very hard to read. Let me make it even smaller so you'll see what I mean. It kind of becomes hard to know, like that letter follows that. You know what I mean? So just be careful when you fill in shapes, what you're doing. That said, filling a shape with centered text kind of works best. Anyway, you would have to really write your text to work for it to be readable this way. But anyway, all right, so that's kind of cute. This is used a lot. By the way, this feature, like a headline article might have a semicircle and the text is filling in the semicircle or stuff like that. These are very simple shapes that are an example. But there's an even better tool, and this is the last thing we're going to do here as far as let's go ahead and, if you want, let's do the star. Why not? Let's click on make a star right here. I'll make it a little bit smaller. Put in here. And now what we're going to do with the type tool, and I guess I can pick up from there again. Do I have any left? I don't know if I have any left in there because I've missed so much. So let's start it with a new one. It would work as a threaded text, by the way, it would work. But let's not thread this text. Let's just start with a new one because I want to show you something different. If I were to now, we're not threading text, right? We just have a shape, whatever shape. Remember that if you're not threading text, if you do click and drag, it puts in lorem ipsum, right? New lorem ipsum. So now you remember that. We're going to do that to this shape. We're going to just put on our type tool. And now, again, when I hover over it, see, here's a box. This is beginning. I'm not bringing type with me. I just have the beginning shape. Look what happens when I hover over the path. It turns into a circle. Again, green is such a bad color. Why am I making it show green? Okay. And it can have no fill too either. There we go. So see how it has a little circle around my insertion point? Then if I click right there, then I get, again, the drop-in text that drops in straight in this one, okay? Again, star is a pretty bad shape for this. Just wanted to show you that. Let's undo that because actually I have a better thing I want to show you, which is now undo that fill. Filling text with text is not that, cool. But watch now instead, I'm going to point with my mouth, with my selection tool onto the path. But now I'm going to hold down the Option or Alt key. And now look at the little shape. You get like a little swirly shape. You see that? It's not the circle. It's a little like curvy line. And at that point, I'm going to click. Let me just start over here. I'm going to click right here and boom. Now you've put that text on a path, which kind of tends to work a little bit better. Pretty cool.
Can you do that again? Because I cannot.
Yeah, I'm going to do that again. So this time I'm going to make, I don't know, a circle, an ellipse. Again, the shape, the color, whatever you do, it doesn't matter at all. Grab your type tool. The only reason I'm changing the color is because I need you to see the shape of my tool. It could even be no shape, it doesn't matter, no fill. But when I hold on to my type tool, when I hover over the path, I'm going to hold on the Alt or Option key. Okay. Oh, I needed to have some color. I can't show you the path. Hold on. Back to yellow. When I hover over my path, if I do nothing, I get the fill, right? So I don't want that. So I need to hold down the Alt and Option, and then you get this kind of little path thing. Click and let go, and then your text goes on the outline of the shape. if you had a more complicated shape that you've been creating with other, I'm going to just invent a shape like that. I'm just going to do whatever little thing I want. Say that you made this little shape here, selected it all and joined it. So it's one shape, right? And had type tool and started over here, hold on the option key and click. It would go around whatever shape, as long as it's one shape. Okay. And then the last thing is, remember that I taught you how to make curvature tool paths, right? So say that I'm going to use the path tool and I'm going to click and drag, and then I'm gonna, I haven't shown you how to do curves with this tool, have I? Let me undo that because I only showed you how to do curves with the curvature tool. Let's start with the curvature tool instead, and let's have no fill. Let's have no fill and let's have a stroke. That way it's easier because it's too complicated otherwise. Here we go. I'm making a stroke path. Okay, so now with the curvature tool, I'm going to begin and I'm going to make a circle here, right? And I'm not going to close this because before I've shown you how to close these guys, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to hit escape. And I hit escape, then I don't have to continue with this path. Let me show you this again. With the curvature tool, you click and then you click and then you click and then you click. So you've made a little whatever squiggle, but it keeps wanting to go and go and go. So in order to stop that path, you hit the escape key. That kind of disconnects it, right? And then with your type tool, you come over here, you overlap holding your line. Since it can't be filled, I'm not even having to hold my Alt key. It only gives me the follow the path. See, because it's just a path. I don't even have to hold my Alt key here. It just recognizes it as the path. And when I click, it puts the text in there. So now you can keep modifying this line and moving it everywhere you want. I'm going to use my selection, my white selection tool to keep modifying this one and change the curve. All right. So now we're going to do this on another page to spend a little bit more time with this kind of thing. Okay.
Sorry, Deanna, can you show how you got it to go along the line?
Let's do this
again.
Let's do this. Let's start with, let's start a clean line. Let's make a path to start with. Grab your curvature tool. It's easier if it's not filled, because lines, when you do a filled line, it becomes really complicated. See, like that. So that's why I'm saying, let's just not do that. Fill, make no fill, none fill. Because by not closing this path, it's going to be a mess to have a fill. And then, yes, let's give it a stroke just so that we can see the path that we're making. So I'm going to give it any color stroke. Doesn't matter. Just so that I can see the path that I'm making. And now we're going to click one time. Let's click another time, click another time, click another time. So I've made a little kind of beep. And now to stop it, I have to hit my escape key. Boom, I have stopped it. I have a little squiggly line. Okay. We could have, I guess, for those of you who have been using, I guess, the pencil tool, maybe you could have done something like that with the pencil tool too. I don't know. It's just never going to be as well done, right? But anyway, I'm going to do that with my little icky squiggly tool with a pencil tool. All right. So now grab your type tool, hover over this line, and I'm going to start from the beginning, and I'm going to just click, and it fills with placement tool, right? Latin lorem ipsum tool, but maybe I'm going to just change it and say, this is my first sample of path type. and I'm writing anything just to fill the space. And I'm going to keep writing. Remember, like before we kept writing to fill the space and to have more text here so I can play with it. I kept writing. Clearly, I stopped seeing the text quite a while ago, but I kept writing, didn't I? So look what you get at the end of it. Recognize that little shape? What is this called, you guys? I've said it a few times, but I never had you guys say it back to me. What's this called? This little red box. Overset text. Okay. It's my overset text box.
I cannot do what you're doing at all.
Okay. So
no, not even in that one, in any shape.
All right. So tell me.
It doesn't transform into that. You know, I have the text.
Well, then hold on.
When you hover, it's square and then the rounded, but not that one that is.
You have to touch the tip of the path. It's not doing it.
There is a path and an anchor, and it has.
Let's do this. I'm gonna stop the share, and you share with me your screen, because yeah, clearly you've been trying. So let me see if something's. You know how Linda had some weird stuff going on hers. Maybe you have some weird stuff going on yours too, because it technically should be there. And if it's not there, let's see what's up. Okay, so here's your path. I mean your shape. Okay, put your type tool over it. Okay, and now hold down your. First of all, let's start from 0. Select your selection tool. I need to make sure nothing else weird is selected. Go to your selection tool at the very top. The black selection tool. Click away so that there's nothing selected. Like click on, the white area. Good. Okay, so now we know that there's. Say cancel. Click on the white area. I want to see no selection. Perfect. Now select it again, because who knows if there was other stuff connected or something. Now select your shape again. Okay, single click your, okay. Now go to your type tool, which you guys can pick up with a letter T. Okay, now put your mouse over your shape. Where's your mouse? There. Okay, right there. Now that you're touching the path and there's a circle, now hold down your Alt or Option key. Now your mouse disappear. I don't see your mouse again. So put your mouse, I don't see it anymore. So go move your mouse a bit. I don't see it. I don't know if you see it, but I don't see it. Okay, there it is. Okay, now there's a circle. Okay, now hold down your Alt or Option key. And now you've got that little curve. Now click with your mouse.
I don't see the curve.
Okay.
It's doing the circle. Do you see the?
There's a circle, but the moment don't touch the path, then don't touch the anchor so that I can see it. Go touch the side path. Are you holding the Alt or Option key? Okay, so undo that, Command Z. I need to see your mouse again. You know what? It's easier. There's a type tool. If this isn't working for any particular reason, there's actually a type on a path tool. So I can't see your mouse kind of disappears, and it could be a VDI thing. So go back to the type tool, hold it down tight, and just like you can get the elliptical, you can pick up the type on a path tool. See the second one down, and then you don't have to use any alternate. See the type, type on a path tool. There you go. Now put your mouse on the path. Put your mouse on the path, and then click.
Okay, thank you.
Click on let's see it happen. There you go. Okay, so worst case scenario. That's why if for some reason the shortcut isn't working for you, maybe it's a VDI thing, who knows? Just use the actual type on a path tool. The thing is that if you choose the actual type on a path tool, which is a fine thing to do, then be aware. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. Does anyone else, before I share mine, does anyone else need to show me something that is or isn't working? Nope. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and say share. Here we go. Once you choose the actual type on a path tool, right, and you use it for something, then next time you go to your type tool for something else, 20 minutes later, or a day later, it's set on type in a path tool. So be careful to click and select the other type tool that you want. There's actually vertical type tool that I don't even bother showing you, but if you click and drag, you can go ahead and write, you know, it's kind of gimmicky, but there you go. There's the vertical type tool. That was the third version. So now let's head back to the type tool. Now, in fact, before, now this is the essentials, and the original, the essentials classic workspace. You click on there, there are like a ton of other type tools. So if you've seen these before, but they're basically the same thing we're doing. You can choose type tool, which is the point type tool. Area type tool would be the second one where we clicked and dragged. Type on a path, vertical, then vertical area, then vertical type on a path, right? So it's like, it's basically, we're just before they needed one button for each thing. And now they've made it so that every, you just by, before you would hover over a shape and nothing would happen to your type tool. You wouldn't get it to turn into the circle. You would have to go and change to area type tool to get it to turn a circle. Now you hover and it does it. So in the end, you don't need all of these anymore. That's why they disappeared, right? But in the end, if for some reason it's not working, there you have them, right? And then you just don't need to use the shortcuts. Now, if you run out of space like me, just drag most of your stuff over, because I want one empty. We could actually make another box, but I want two things. I want this one here, and I want maybe the circle one here. And if you have to make two new ones, do that. But I would like you to put these two here because I'm going to show you how to manipulate these. Yes, Catherine?
My vertical type tool, when I kind of expand it to do like multiple lines, it actually, for some reason, is reading right to left.
Oh, mine too.
Yours is too.
Lorem ipsum dolor sit. Well, it's, you know, how if you write in Japanese or in one of those, that's how you read. You read vertical and left to right. I don't know if you guys knew that detail, that it's not only up and down, but it's also left to right. Yeah. So that makes sense. It's just that we're in whatever,
right.
Rome, how do you call it in English? The type that our characters are Roman, there's a name. Anyway, they're not like Cyrillic characters or Chinese, Japanese characters. So then it looks weird, but there's a name. I remember it in Spanish. I can't remember in English. The type of vocabulary writing that we use writes left to right, but the ones who would go up and down read, we read right to, we read left to right. They read right to left. Oh, anyway, so that's why it's set up for that.
But is there a way to switch it?
Let me see, right click. Let's go to the vertical type tool and double click it. And then options for it come in. Align here, text flow, left to right, right to left. Okay, so guys, what I did is when you want to modify a tool, sometimes you can just, so you have to select it first, right? Because otherwise it's not, we're not talking about this, but the tool. And when you double click that tool right there, options for that tool appear. And in this one here, you can the text flow from left to right or right to left. So when I do it again and I write, it's going to go, oh, I didn't switch it. I had switched it and then I switched it again. There we go. We say, okay. Now when I do that, it goes, nope. By rows, right to left, by column, oh. By columns, right to left. This is by rows. Right to left. But it's still right to left. Why not left to right? So that's not the solution. This is just, it's still up and down. So I don't see any change. I'd never. It keeps defaulting to by columns right to left. When I switch it to this and say, okay, it does the same. And when I double click, it's defaulted to that one. So something's not, maybe I need to change this too. it still implies right to left. It's not, you know what? One of those things that I'm gonna have to research, because no, it doesn't seem to be changing, so I don't know, actually. No answer, I have none. And it's interesting because it used to be that it just, anyway, I mean, if we use it for one line, it doesn't matter, right? Because it ends up being left to right, and then which rarely would be right in English much more than one line. It would be because we're trying to make our text say something that is you know, we want that to be a name. I don't know, what could we want to write? Announcement or something like that, right? And so then it's one word, so it's okay. We wouldn't really put many more letters. So in that sense, it still works, but yeah. Okay. I like it when many times you only do it. I mean, I know a lot, but some things you don't even try out unless someone asks the question, right? And then I go, oh, wait, well, I know how to modify a tool, but I would have thought that that was it, but clearly not. So, okay, let's go back to put one of each of these in a new page. And let me show you some stuff. First of all, I'm going to go back to my type tool. If I want to correct anything, like here, I put a this is, it's still about putting the cursor in there, in the type for it to work. And I can still select one word and make that one word, by the way, a different color or something. So that always works. But, and I'm going to go and click in there to put in an extra space to fix that, or here I made a typo, right? So it's still about where you put your cursor. But in this case, I know that I kept writing. Right? I know that I kept writing. So how do I access that stuff that I kept writing? Well, it's probably easier to show it. And where is it easier to show? I think it's easier to show it. I'll show it to you here first. I don't know about you, but I kept writing like, I don't know, 5 or 7 more words in here. And there they show me. I don't want to just pick them up and do something else with them. That's fine. That is just to show you that it does work. Whoops, I should have given an alarm. But that's not what I wanted to do. So what I want to do is just to keep moving this area around. So this was, imagine that I had just done this. That's a line, right? Hit, and I'm going to hit escape to be done with it. Oh, again, just watch this piece so that I can show you this without text, right? How would I move this around? Well, one way would be with my white arrow tool. Remember, I can select this. When I selected it first, you have to, when you first select it, you have to click one more time to select that individual anchor, and then you can move it, you can change it, you can drag it around, right? So I'm modifying my line, making it bigger, smaller. From here, I can also change the curve. Remember, bigger or smaller makes it more or less angled. Okay, or I can play with these to change my curve again. So that was kind of something that we learned when we played around with these shapes, right? So this is no different, except that it looks different because it's covered in text. But watch, now everyone with the selection tool, that's when you see there's also the anchors, right, that make my curves. This is still the beginning. So if I grab this and start moving it around, it's just moving around the text, right? But it's still there. And so as I make my curve bigger, before my text was going only as far as the word fill, and now just to fill the space and 2 keeps coming up, because what, I'm making my curves wider and bigger, and so there's more to fill. Does that make sense? And I'm going to keep doing that until I run out of space, which I believe I'm almost about to write out of text. And I'm going to write, I have finally run out of, have I run out of text? I kept going. Looks like I keep going. I have more text. So I can play with, I guess I wrote a ton more text, so I'm going to have to I'm gonna get rid of this one here. So what I can do is I can add more, but right now I'm just gonna keep moving it out. I finally have reached the end of my text. Took me quite a bit to reach the end of my text, but so when I put so much space that now see how I have the good old white box at the end. That means I don't have overset text anymore. I had written so much, I should have just written a few more letters, but I had written so much, I had to make it really big. But there's that white text, meaning I do not have overset text. I know that's where it ends. But if I now go in and make it smaller again for some reason, I begin to have my overset text thing. I have this curve. There we go. So I'm just playing around now with stuff. As you can see, whatever you do with the path, it'll happen with your text. It'll keep playing around. Okay, so now that said, how do we, I'm going to just push that over. If this didn't work for you, if you guys have any questions, as you can see, you can end up doing whatever you want. An infinity symbol, right now I'm just playing around with my shape and not turning it into anything in particular. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to move that over a bit. This is more typical. We tend to use things on circles a lot. So I'm looking at the time, though. I should have given you guys a break. Let me see how far away we are. And if it's very far, I'll give it to you now and we'll do this when you come back. And if it's not too far. No, we're still good enough. We're near the middle. So let's just do this and then we can come back to something else. Okay, so move this one out of the way or whatever you need to do so that we just have this circle here. Here, I'm going to grab this one and put it over there. And now let's just go with this circle. Zoom in a bit to show you that. Okay, is everyone ready to start with this one? Because this is something you will encounter much more. I'm going to clean your answers because I asked you if you were okay, but I never really checked in. Is someone needing some help with the first one? Nope. All right, so here we go. With the text in a circle, wherever you started and you clicked first is the beginning, right? And so here, lorem ipsum is our beginning. Now, it might help if instead of having Latin, we actually have a sentence that makes sense to us. That way we can see when it begins to end. So let's go ahead and choose your type tool and then click on that type. And then if you remember to select one word, it's double click. To select a whole paragraph is 1, 2, 3. And so then all my text selects itself. And now I'm going to change it. And let's say this is the sample text for my circle. So I can see how to move words around this path with path type. And now we get to the place where I want us to write a bit more with this path type tool to learn some more. So I just wrote a couple more words in there. Oh, and if there's any typos, please go fix them. Circle so I can see how to move words around this path. With path type tool, it's not very inspired text. All right, so did everyone finish writing their text? All right, so since I kept writing, yeah, there's my overset text. No matter the shape, that's my overset text, which if I were to click and pick it up, there's the other words, right? So we know that that keeps working. I'm going to delete that because I don't want to pick it up. But as you can see, that always means there's more text. You can put it somewhere else. But I don't want to put it somewhere else. I want to keep working within this circle. So how do I do this? First of all, the selection tool again. Regular selection tool, not the area type tool right now. If we do if we do the direct selection tool, then when we click on these things, we're going to be distorting the image like before. Right now, I don't want to distort the image. I just want our selection tool to not distort the image and watch. Now, for a second, you have to watch. This is where I began on the word this. And just to make it easier, I'm going to just so that it's easier for us to follow. This is where I began, my pink letter, just that way we can see the difference. Okay. So this is where I began. At the beginning, right in front of the T, there's a little double line there. See those two lines? The first one indicates the beginning of my type. The second one indicates the ending. So watch, I'm going to grab the second one, and you have to just watch first. The second one, the bottom one, the one near the word path. I'm going to grab it and I'm going to drag it in. And so I am shortening it. So now I have a separate beginning and ending. Another thing I want you to notice is that now I have this big line here. And then watch, as I make this one smaller and smaller, see how that one's changing? So this one represents the center point between the beginning and the ending. So now I'm going to drag it back out here. Instead of this one now, I'm going to grab the first one, and with the first one only, so I need to, I know, I'll give them a break in a second. That's my alarm going, please let these people go. So now I'm selecting the first one. And now when I move the first one over, my beginning is changing, but it's pushing all the rest of my text into that. See what I mean? So now I'm moving this down or up. And then I can move my ending down or up. So if everyone's been able to move their beginnings and their endings, then give me a yes. But there's more to do, but I just want you to handle your beginnings and endings. Typically text that's going to go around might start like kind of there, and then might end up kind of there. All right, so Rachel, Linda, Angie, Cheyenne, you guys are okay? Okay, Linda is working, yeah? Linda, I can't see, yeah, I think as you said yes. All right. Okay, so for now, we haven't changed the font, the size, the anything. All we know is that we have more text because I made you write more than that, right? But we can't see that more than that because up until now, we haven't changed the font size. So it's still hidden that more than that. But I wanted to show you before we go any further, this little thing that sticks out, because not only does it indicate what's the center point, which might help see if I were trying to make this start really at the center, I can see then it's not centered, but I would have to bring this down and then put that one right there because now it's pretty straight. Now I'm truly beginning at the middle or stuff like that. But there has some another really cool feature. So watch, I'm going to go grab it and I'm going to pull it inwards. And I have inverted the position of my text. Now it's over here and I'm going to pull it out. Okay, so this center line, when I pull it in, the text now moves inwards. Oops, I moved the front over the back. Pretty cool. But then you have to consider that it's backwards, right? So now I have to open it that way to see the end. Now I'm going to pull it out again, grab this center line and pull it out. And now I'm back to how I began. Now, if I were to move the beginning over the end, say that I put this and I go over this ending point, watch. I'm going to move this over here. Then it kind of inverts itself and you're starting the circle again. So try not to do that. I'm going to undo. You need to keep the beginnings and the ends not overlapping. Now, I'm going to, all right, did that work for everyone? Moving that text into the circle or out of the circle? Yep. All right. Now, what I'm going to do next is change something like we did before. So if I try to change all the color, change everything to a very different color, nothing subtle. Now let's make the font much smaller. So if I make my font much smaller, what's going to happen is I'm going to see more of the words that are now hidden, right? So I'm going to go, instead of 9 points, I'm going to change it to 6 points. First of all, I'm going to keep it in 9 for a second. What my last word is, move words around this path with path. Not very, that's my last word, is the word, the second path. When I go down to 6 points, there it is, around the words with path type tool to learn some more, it had changed color. You see that? All that hidden stuff did change. Let's go make it bigger again. Let's make it, I don't know, 10 points or 11 points. So now in my case, I had started with 9 points. So now I'm hiding even more words. Now let's change the font type to something else. Something other weird. So now if I again make this really tiny, I'll see that no matter what, everything that was hidden does change, because it's one big circle. No matter that it was hiding or not, I did change anything that's in the bottom or the inside. It all keeps changing. Now I changed it to this little house script. Now I'm going to go bigger, etc. It keeps working for whatever's hiding or not hiding. Okay. Now, of course, I only wanted to show you hiding so you could see these features, but normally if it's a circle, you wouldn't want to write more than what you can see, right? But anyway, that's just so that you could see that the stuff that hides operates just like anything else, which is it still changes color, it still changes font, and you can still pick it up and write it somewhere else. All right. So if that's worked for everyone, then we can take our break. And then when we come back, we can work with some of these things that we've been doing. As far as text, we're going to do some other stuff with text, which is outlining it, turning it into shapes. And then we can create some logos and stuff. But one of the logos that would create would be the kind where you have, which is very difficult to have text around a circle. Okay, but we're also going to outline text. So we're going to do some cool stuff. Let's save this before we go, and please do some screenshots. Okay, maybe if you have a mess of things, you can kind of separate things a little bit again so that you can see some of this stuff, and then do a screenshot. There we go. And then I'm going to save this. Computer, Illustrator files, playing with type. You can call it whatever you want. That's what I'm gonna call mine. And then let me give you guys the link to the Padlet. So you can all post this. Okay. Here, I just put in the link to the Padlet, and heading over to Padlet. Let's point type and area type and type on a path. And if you want, you might want to say point type, you just click, area type, you click and drag, type on a path, you hold your Alt key down, right? So you can, maybe I'll do that, point type, click, and area type, click and drag, and area and wrap and type. Type will wrap itself. And type on a path. point to the path and hold down Alt or Option and publish. All right. Cool. So post your work. And let's see what time it is. 10:46. So we'll be back by 11:01 a.m. It's actually already 11:02 because it's already 10:47. All right. See you guys in 15 minutes. Unless, is there any questions? Did something not work? Does anyone have something before we go? All right. See you guys then in 15 minutes. All right, back. Come on back, come on back. Let me know when you're here. All right. All right, so a couple of people had told me already in their email. Surprisingly enough, a lot of people had conflicts today, and I said, well, come for the part that you can. But so 3, I was surprised all 3 did get to come for the first part. Cheyenne and Angie and Catherine. So it was great to have them, but they also had to leave. So hey, it was better than nothing. But let's continue. And now what we're going to do. Here we go. Couldn't find the right thing to share. Here we go. So now we're going to work a little bit more with this. I'm looking at the time. Let me actually, I'll leave this here. I was going to do a logo based on a circle like that, but there's something more that I want to show you. So let's leave that one there. We might come back to it. Let's get a new file again, and that would say create. And now let's go ahead and with just point type, meaning all we do is we click. We're going to click in here and we're going to write one word. Let's say that we're going to write the word world. Have I done this? Tadia, you've been with me. I've done the world word before. Flower. Let's do flower. I haven't done flower. It's good. And I'm
Some one word.
What's that?
Maybe some one word passes them to what?
Yeah, I don't know. So let's write the word flower. Uppercase. I mean, you guys can play with it later, but let's just do uppercase for now. When you're done writing the word flower, let's go ahead and get selection tool, select it. And now let's make it pretty big so that it kind of, I don't know, let's say 72 to start with. So it gets big. I'm going to go over here. And let's find a font that is a bit more fun. There's, it doesn't need to be more to first learn. It doesn't need more fun or not. So weird. I'm looking at this. Has it ever happened to you when you look at a word and it doesn't look like the word? Do you have those moments when you look at something and like it looks like FL over or something? I don't know. It's just so weird. I guess when it's uppercase, it doesn't make sense. So anyway, see if you can find a font where that's pretty faddish. I found this one. There you go. I spend a lot of time telling people in the digital sign techniques how to find new fonts. Let me first just any old font that you have that's a bit fatter or whatever font, it doesn't matter, because I want to teach you something else before, and then we can go and have a bit of time teaching you how to find other fonts that don't come up. But there's you probably don't have this one, which is the one, you probably do not have this one, so don't try to look for the same one. Try to find any font. It doesn't really matter which that you have in your ready to go fonts. All right. So this is text, and we know it's text for a couple different reasons. Let's go ahead and hold on. Let's select it. Hold on your Option or Alt key, and we're gonna copy it again a few times. Let's get 3 of these. I was going to say 4, but I think 3 will be enough to start with. Okay. The first one is text. They're all text right now. They're all the same and they're all point type text. But what we're going to do right now doesn't have to do with this point type text or not. It's rather the fact that it is text versus later it won't be text. It'll be art. So the first one, all three are text right now. This first one, if I want to modify it, I can only modify it as text, meaning I can put in my type tool and maybe decide this to be flowers, I can add an S, for example, that kind of thing. But other than that, there's not much modification I can do, certainly none to the shapes. I can't take these shapes and modify in any other way, other than changing the font itself, of course, which we know and we've already done. But other than that, we can't. And if we want to give it color, it'll color the whole thing, unless if we want to, we can select the type tool and select only one and then color one, right? And in fact, we could even select one and make it a different font if you want. So in that sense, we can have modifications of each one, but all within the word of text, right? A different font or a different color. And we can have one be much tinier, we can make this one be, 20 points. So, but that's it. That's kind of what we can do with text and no more, right? Let's go ahead and go to the second one. And in fact, what we're going to do with this one is we're going to use a tool that the only place you can get it from. Let me see if I go over here and add it. So now see, when you go to the type tool here, there's only 3 types, remember? And I showed you, I showed you rather quickly when I switched for a second to the Essentials Classic, that in Essentials Classic, there's more. So there's one here that's called the Touch Type tool. So don't actually switch to this. I want to keep us simply in Essentials. But if you go and hold down your Shift key, hold on the Shift and then type your T. So Shift and then type T. You get a new tool appeared here in the bottom, which is the Touch Type. So it's Shift T. And Touch Type is kind of cool because it allows us to modify within the same parameters of this, but it also lets us modify each letter in shape and size as if it were art while it still is text. So that's a very special kind of tool that doesn't normally appear. So once again, Shift T. And then when I have that touch type tool right there, I can select, for example, just my F. And then I can use this little guy here to like flip it, go up here and make it bigger, change its font or color individually, which we've always kind of been able to do, as we already saw up there. But I can change the font type to something fancy or whatever. Let me get something very different there. But most importantly, I can modify its scale, decide to move it down. Doesn't look like an F anymore. It looks like a Chinese character, but you know what I mean. So I can do things to it. And if I do that, the rest of the text is still working as text, and I can keep modifying them. And did you see how things moved over? I'm going to grab this one and make it into an O of a very different kind, which I could have done before, but now this one I can continue to modify it. And this point I'm trying to make is see how the letters before and after adapt to the space that's missing. It's still text, right? And so I can just have some fun with that. Here, I'm going to make this one skinny and give it, again, the whole color thing is just what you guys see it now because I'm making it pretty. You can move it up or down. And when I do that, things resettle themselves. Okay. The good point about this is that I can go with my type tool and still make this be maybe I can click in here and go to follower, right? It still is type, which is amazing that I can do this. This is the only tool that allows me to keep it as type, editable type, flowen, right? And it still works, which is, you know, completely out of the blue for anything that that was ever possible before. So again, it's the Shift T, tool amongst all my type tools. Or if you want to use it a lot, you can add that tool here. So click away from everything for a second. And this is just if you don't want to remember what the shortcut is for that type tool because it doesn't live here. You can also add tools to your type. So you go to these three little dots over here at the very bottom of your toolbar and say edit toolbar. So you can go look at all your tools, and here we have all our type tools, and we can add stuff that's not here. So this is it. So if you really want this one, it's the last one, you can just go ahead and double click. I think you drag it over, right? Ah. Modify. I'm trying it. I thought you could drag it, but it's not. Hello. Trying to put it in there. Doesn't it let me add it? Right click. No. I was supposed to just add it, but it's not adding. Maybe you just use it from here, but I thought I wanted to edit the toolbar, not. I don't remember how to add it. I haven't added something in a while, but I thought all you needed to do was double click and it would add it. So, or that you could drag it, but it's not anyway. So there it is. Otherwise you get it from here from, oh, it did. I just had to close that. Okay. I'm like, oh, it added itself. So now there it is. It's not, no. Okay. I don't know how to make it add it permanently, but you can grab it from here, I guess, if you forget that it's a type tool. Anyway, so now that's so anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and make this one fatter, skinnier, taller, that kind of stuff. If I head over here and move it all, it all stays connected. Okay, and over here it's giving me two choices for it. All right. Now this is a very particular tool, special tool. That leaves it being text, but even then, that's all you can do. It still is the letter, and it allows you to change things in one way or another, but it is still text. So now, if all of that is still text, how about this one here? And actually, I did need 4. That's true. Let's move these up. Let's do another duplicate of this one because I wanted to keep 1 as text. So if you can move things up a bit and have 2, I'd rather have 2 of the original ones down here. By the way, let's save this file before we somehow crash. Save on your computer. I'm going to call this one outline type because that's what we're going to do. Call this one. Okay, so these 2 are still type. So once if you make a typo, a mistake, or you want to change it, these 2 versions, you can still do that too. Now, what we're going to do instead, we're going to leave this one as is, as the original. And then here, we're going to actually change it from being type to being art, to being a shape that happens to look like an F, a shape that happens to look like an L. To do that, we're going to have go to up to type and create outlines. So once again, all I did was go up to type, create outlines. And at first it looks the same. In fact, if I click on this one and this one, the only difference right now seems to be that the top one has this big bounding box. And most importantly, see this line, the baseline shift, that blue line in text is the baseline where, and one of the things that this other tool is it shifted the baseline, see? But you always have that line and you know it's still text if you have that line there. which this still has, but this one doesn't anymore, but it does have something like it. It has a bounding box. This has a bounding box. This bounding box still has the type tool part of it. This one doesn't. This is just a bounding box. What this is now, and if we were to have been looking at the layers, which I haven't been showing you, but anyway, the rest of these, this is my newest one. So watch, this is my flower. It's type, it's one line. This is my second one, the one that I used with the touch type tool, and it's one line. This is my third one, which is also one line. But this one that I just made is a group. And if I open it up, each letter, it's its own object now. And in fact, we're like, no, it doesn't look like that. If I click on it, it's one thing. It's just because it's grouped. I can move it around as a group. So let's do this. Keep this one here. Let's copy and paste it, or click and drag with the other tool over here. And let's bring it here. This is our outlined one now. Okay. And there's two ways to work. I want two of these outlined ones. So this is for sure not text anymore. This is a group with a bunch of individual letters. And the top one I'm going to leave as a group, and this bottom one I'm going to ungroup. So remember how to ungroup something? Either Command or Control G again, or up here it says ungroup, or up in Object I can say ungroup. So Shift Control or Command G, or any of these other places, I'm going to ungroup it. Now I'm going to click away. Now this one will stay as a group. This one, each thing now is its own piece, right? So let's first play with this one that is its own piece, and then we'll go back to the top one, because once you ungroup it, one of the negatives of that is that you can begin to lose the flow of it looking like a word if you start moving things around. This kind of kept it in place for us with this tool that kind of left it move, but here it's up to us, right? But most importantly, before I do anything else, is as this is a shape, I'm going to go to the L, which is pretty simple. I can now go to my white or direct selection tool and play around with it. First of all, remember, I could make these little corners round if that's what I wanted to do. I can go to this one and make only two of these corners round. Remember, you had to select and select again, and then you make only that round. So that's just reminding you what these things are, right? If you select only one. You can also go to this thing and select only one path and maybe begin to, you know, completely distort it. You're making a whole different shape. You can, and I'm clicking and then clicking again, right? Because if you just click one time, it all just moves. So you have to click and then click again to move only one part of it. And what you can do will depend on what you've been, you know, what letter you got or what shapes you made. You can also select two different things at once. So you can't just move one only at once. You could select this one, isolate it from the rest, then hold your shift key and select that one. And now you have two paths selected, and now you can move both of them. Or I might want to make both of these bottoms of these R's. So watch, I select, watch this one. I want to grab that one, this one, this one, and this one. So remember that if you drag, you grab everything. Well, once it's selected, if I were to now just redrag and grab only those four, see, only those four, then I can move only those four, right? And I'm holding down the shift key so that it doesn't kind of go weird, so it stays straight. Okay, so maybe I select these, all of those, and move all of that down. So this is, in a way, I'm going to move these two. I'm going to grab these two and move them in, right? Maybe I'll grab this and I'll give it more of an inclination. So as you can see, we can really distort, modify shapes. Now in here we have a compound shape, but I can grab the inner circle and maybe make it into a different kind of thing. All right, so now we're actually, each one of these has been treated as its own shape. I can, when I just select it first and move it, I move the whole thing. But I have to click one more time to begin to grab only the paths and move just the paths. I have to select it again. And then I can move that path. I see a hand up. Yes, Tardia.
It was earlier about the touch tool, but I found it then. Thanks.
Oh, okay. So don't forget to save. And then any questions before I keep showing you stuff? I mean, you can distort it to the point that it doesn't even look like a letter anymore, of course, beyond everything else. But
Yes, I just wrote outline maybe convert to paths in this Illustrator on PC. Well,
save that again. Convert to paths. What outline is
it
convert
may
to
be
paths?
convert to paths in the menu.
Oh,
You know, I'm still looking.
let me see, on
Yeah.
VDI.
Yeah, maybe you can find it, the correct one.
Let me see. Let me just do this here. Whoops. Object. Convert to paths. You're finding convert to paths instead of create outlines? Because create outlines is here, but where are you finding convert to paths? Under type, you have the create outlines, but you're saying that you're finding a convert to paths? I can't, Laura, I can't hear you anymore. So where did you find the convert to paths? I'm not hearing you. So.
The only possible outline is convert to paths, but I don't think it's working yet. So that's where I'm
So
stumped.
under type, you
Yeah,
don't have create outlines?
Under type, I couldn't get create outlines unless I'm missing it.
Okay, are you, first of all, make sure it's selected. Right, with your selection tool, and then go to type.
Selected.
Create outlines. Where did you find the convert to type though? The convert to paths, under what?
I think it was in the type, or I was looking through shapes as well, so, you know, I can't remember perfectly.
But did you find the create outlines? Otherwise it's Shift Control 0.
Okay, that may be better. I'll try that.
Otherwise, if you want to share your screen, try this and then tell me if it works, and if not, share your screen. Trying to find, because here's paths. Could you convert to path? I don't think so. So I'm not sure where you found the convert to path. Obviously, I'm not saying it's not there, but I don't see it. I mean, unless you went backwards, like if you already, let me see, if you already converted it to outlines, then you would have to convert it to.
Yeah, I found outlines now, but I couldn't see it before. Maybe I didn't select the item correctly.
Yeah, but if the item isn't selected, then you don't have anything available.
It appeared to be selected, but it wasn't.
Yeah, if nothing's selected, the option is there, but it's grayed out and you don't see it. Only what's available in black is what you can do. You always have to select something for it to do it. Okay, good. So if you found it, that's good then. All right. I mean, other than whatever happened to you before, for the most part, it's not like VDI does different things. VDI might work slower or something, or like you had some weird settings, but it doesn't like appear for PC versus not for PC or Mac or or VDI. Is just, it was a weird thing. Other than that, it's,
you know what I think it was in a text box, and that may have made the difference.
Oh,
when
you
it
did
was
area. Oh, you did area type.
Okay. Yes, I like to do that.
Oh, okay. So that's probably, remember I said type. Okay, that's true. Let me go over here. If you do area type and then write flower. Okay. Now as area type, let me go to type. It's still there, create outlines. So I guess it's still, so I thought maybe that was different, but no, it still works. So I don't know, whatever, you found it. So I can't trace back whatever happened, but there it is. In fact, the only negative about this is having separated it is it's truly separate things now, and I can really, mess things up. So let me just show you. I'm going to grab all of these and push them down a little bit. And of course, I haven't changed their fill. So say that I start changing their fill individually. I can change their fill. I can give it a gradient. I can give it, a pattern fill. I can give it texture fill, stuff like that, right? Individually. Now, I'm going to select this one here. And it's the same. It's been created to outlines, but it's grouped. So if I try to do anything to this one, even with my, with my fill, it'll still apply to everything because I'm selecting a group. So if even with the group selected, if I go to my direct selection tool, you can still do the same thing we did because of your direct selection tool. Although I'll choose at the same time, you can still now select again individually and then select again. And then you're down to the same thing as we had before, right? And the good news about that is that you keep them connected. But there's an even better way to do this, which is isolation mode. So let's say that I want to work on my F. Well, how did I get into isolation mode, you guys?
Double click.
Yeah. So I'm going to double click F. Then I'm going to double click F again. See how now it's separated from the rest? When you double click, you completely isolate, everything else goes gray. I would still now then, if in the outline mode, I can treat it like any shape. I can make it smaller, taller, thinner because it's my black area tool. But if I go to my white area tool, then I can start working with all of this funky stuff, right? And do whatever I want to do here. So the good news about this is that when I'm done changing my shape into whatever I want it to be, I can move it here or there, wherever I want it. Once I leave isolation mode by hip, or maybe I'll go now, double click on the O, and then I'll place, no, you have to be in the black selection tool to enter isolation mode, double click. I'm going to go into my O, and then I'm going to go ahead and make this be more like an egg shape. When I'm done and I hit escape, I move everything at the same time versus this, I would have to always select everything, right? To move it all at the same time. Does that make sense? So it's just, this has turned them into all individual shapes, which means I have to move them one at a time versus this keeps it as one shape. And then all I need to do is double click, and then you can start playing around with whatever it is that you want to play, whatever it is that you want to do, right? So that's just the only, if you want advantage. I'm going to go ahead and make this be a much thinner. So you can see immediately how you can get into like logo mode with this, right? Like that was an E. Imagine it on its own as a shape that has nothing to do with anything else. And then suddenly it's a shape that looks like I would have, let me double click until I select it individually. I'm going to copy that. And then if I go over here, I'm going to make this into, it's the beginning of a logo. You know what I'm trying to say? Versus of having to create some shapes that go in there and play. So when you have letters that form a company's name, you can look at their initials, play around with stuff, distort, and then you might come up with something that works or not. Maybe this company was like an electric company. And so you kind of make a little shape that looks like a plug, but it's the E for the company Electron or whatever, right? Tadia, yes. Are you having a hard time finding your sound? All right. Are you trying to ask me a question? Because your hand is up, but I don't hear you. Not sure are you writing something in the, oh, there you go, sound.
No, it was question earlier. So.
Okay. Oh, so you don't have a question? Oh. Okay, then I'll lower your hand. All right. So, so the only advantage or disadvantage of this or this is that this keeps it in a group. And then to modify it, you would have to double click, enter isolation mode, right? That said, you don't even have to do that. You can keep it as a group and just go to your direct selection tool and then do the same thing we were doing, but just keeping it as a group. Then you have to kind of click one more time and then you begin the whole selecting shapes kind of thing, and then you start playing. So just remember that that you can do this, you can get to the point that you clearly don't have any more shape that look like the letter anymore. But anyway, yeah, so the white area tool is the best way for you to play with all these things. Now, one more thing. I'm gonna click away. Just watch. Remember that we learned how to make gradients the other day. Well, if I were to select this one here, it's a group, right? If these are individual letters, I can select, I already showed you gradients to each one individually. But if I select a group and I want to put a gradient on this one, and I'm going with the basic gradient that comes here, which is this one, it treats it as individual shapes, and each one gets the yellow to orange, yellow to orange, yellow to orange, which is one way of using the gradients. Another way, if you wanted the gradient to go from end to end, then you could go to the gradient tool. Remember we learned the gradient tool the other day? And now, since it's a group, we can actually click from the beginning to the end. And now the gradients go yellow through orange for the entire group. Does that make sense? Instead of individual little gradients, we can extend the gradient to everything. So that kind of helps. If you were on a regular word, this one's still a regular word, and I were to, like it's text, and I were to give it gradient, it wouldn't work at all. You cannot fill text with a gradient. You cannot fill it with a gradient. You can definitely fill it with these patterns, but not with a gradient. Okay, it just doesn't respond to gradient. Colors or patterns, they're considered fills, but a letter with patterns is very hard to read. I mean, look at that. I can't tell it said flowers, but it would have been nice to put in a gradient. You can't. So if you want to gradient your text, it needs to be converted into outlines. Okay. And this one here had been converted to outlines, but if I add gradient without doing the group, then it goes word by word, versus this one goes to the entire shape. Now, of course, you all know that you could select and change your gradient, right? We all know that gradient options, and we can start playing around and give it different colors and stuff like that. So that would still apply, right? And you go over here and make this one purple or blue. So whatever gradient you want to give it, it still applies all across as opposed to individual letters. At this point, I've made so many things, changes here. It would be good to make a screenshot of this whole thing so that you have it later to post. And I don't know how much you guys are playing with stuff. You might have made more or less of these guys, but let's go for that. And then if you still have one of the untouched ones somewhere, or one of the initially untouched, I'm going to grab one of these and bring it down here. I'm going to have us do something else here. So, but meaning untouched, meaning it's still text, okay, not outlined. And by the way, if you have one that's already been outlined, you go back to type and you try to convert back at this point into text. I can't, in part because I filled it with a gradient, and you cannot have it filled with gradients. Had I converted it to outlines. I'm going to do that to create outlines. If I want to then go back to turn it back into text, it's not doable anymore. It's just not text. Okay. So you have to be sure that before you turn it into outlines that you want that. I was having a blank there. I was looking for something, the glyphs. Okay. So I had just seen it. There it is. Okay. I was looking for glyphs. Okay. So does everyone have one here that's still text down here? I don't have it as outlines. I have one that's just still text. If not, you can rewrite one. All right. So what if we want to have one of these shapes, or one of these things replaced with an icon or a shape? This is still text. Okay. So I'm going to move up. Obviously, if it's art, we can turn it into art or bring in an icon or a shape anywhere, right? But if it's still text, which this one is still text, we can still add some icons in here. Remember, was it the other day that I was showing you that some fonts are actually symbols? I'm going to do two here to show you what I mean. Some fonts can just be drawings or symbols, or let me find one here. Here is one. That, for example, see that? This says flower, but it's got little artsy pieces. The F in this font, it's called Bodoni Ornaments. The F is that shape, the L is this shape, the O is that shape. So when you type out words, I'm going to type out my name, Diana, that's what comes out, right? So when you type a letter, a certain shape or another comes out. Does that make sense? But the good news about these is that there's still text, right? And why do I mean that's a good news in this sense is because you can insert them into the flow of text, and because as a file, fonts are much smaller. One font is much smaller. One letter that's a font is much smaller than an actual art or piece of drawing. So if for any reason you can use fonts instead of actual art, that is better. Especially now for the last, ever since the web started, web pages have to be as tiny as possible to be efficient at uploading themselves and everything. And so a lot of the times, there's a lot of fonts now that are art icon based, right? That are glyph fonts, so that you can do a lot of little bits and pieces that are much easier to upload than if this was a little flower with paths and strokes, and all of that is going to be bigger than to upload just one letter. So how do we find those? Well, let's go ahead and say that I want to turn this O into a flower, for example. Let's see if we can find an icon that looks like a flower. So I'm going to select my O. This is text, right? So I'm going to type tool, go back in here, select my O, because it's a selected like in the past. And I'm going to go see if I can find a glyph font. So here's my glyphs. Type, go up to type and go to glyphs and open your glyphs. And so here we are. I'm going to make this much bigger. What this is showing me is for the font that I have chosen. See, here's my O. And it turns out that whenever you design a font, the designers, not you and me, the designers of font designers, they create many more parts and pieces to a font than what we see. Because if this were Spanish, it has an N with an Enya, you would want that one. If you had an accent unit, you would have a design with that one, right? So it's showing you different shapes and things. Now this font doesn't have art pieces, but it's showing you what in this font you would look at the @ for, the ampersand or the pound symbol. It's been designed for this font. Now that down here is the same font that I've been using, Alfarn. So whatever font you have has its own glyphs. So I'm going to go here and choose, I don't know, Arial, basic Arial. And these are all the fonts, the Arial font with all of the possible arts and pieces. And we discovered that even the basic Arial font has some little lines and things that you could have, you know, chosen for it to be. So say that, oh, there's a little heart, for example, there. What if I just double click? That thing turned into a heart. I didn't necessarily want the heart, but I'm showing you how I would just double click and bring it in. So if you guys need to do symbols like copyright symbols or, you know, stuff like that, this would be the way to find in the font that you're doing. So notice that this font Arial has symbols in many different languages. In Arab, I mean, this one's humongous. It's a very basic, it's a very well most used font, but I wanted to here's my like registered trademark shape or stuff like that, right? Anyway, I'm going to keep looking for a font that has a flower, and over here, this one only had a couple little drawings. Whoa. Did I lose my command 0? Oh, yeah, I had just so I had a couple of drawings and had here like a little heart, just a couple silly ones, a little smiley face. So if I double click, there it comes. Okay, I need to keep selecting because it changed. But now let's go look for some fonts that are truly fonts that are made to be symbols. So I'm gonna have to move this up a bit here so you can see it more. So I'm gonna click in here and I'm gonna find some others that are simple. I don't know which one might have symbols or not, right? I have to just try it out. But I'm going to go down here and I'm going to try way at the bottom. I know that there's some for sure that are very well known to be just fonts. I think Wingdings is one of them. I can't remember off of my top of my head. So I'm going to just select this Arial and I'm going to write Wingdings. There it is, Wingdings. So I hit return and no. Why is it not going back to, it's not letting me choose. Okay, so I can go over here where I can still see what they look like and find a font. I guess it's not letting me choose from there, which is weird, but I can go down here and find a font that's art pieces, like this was Bodoni Ornaments, which is the one that we looked at before. So if I go over here, I should be able to choose Bodoni Ornaments. Bodoni. Why is it not? Okay, I'm not going to select anything. I'm going to go in here. I guess because it was selected, it wasn't letting me. Anyway, so here's my Bodoni Ornaments, the one I had shown you before. So I'm going to select this text and Bodoni Ornaments, hit return. It's weird. It's not working. It's driving me crazy. Maybe I change it first into Bodoni Ornaments. Why is this? Something is not. It's not wanting to change. Okay, I'm going to delete that. Write a regular any old O. Why is it not shifting to Bodoni Ornaments? I'm flummoxed for some reason. This is not. Okay, I change it on its own, which means I need to know, and then I'll go and say type glyph so that I can see all the glyphs of Bodoni. That was weird. Normally you could change it here, but now it looks like I first had to change it to that font and then open the glyph. So I'm not sure why that was happening, but anyway, now I can go here and decide that one of these is a flower, for example, right? And then maybe turn it into a flower right there. Or a flower, you know, right there, or I don't know, I'd have to test them all. But that one, that doesn't look like a flower so much anyway. So I think this is the most flowery looking flower. There's this one. Those two are the most flowery looking flowers. So if I say I choose that one. Now, as I said, there's tons of different fonts that have this. So you don't have to go only with that one, but maybe you just write oh a bunch of times. in many different, in one of the fonts, and then you select it and you start looking, if that's what you want, and you start looking at other art. This is the O in Wingdings, for example. But that doesn't mean that Wingdings doesn't have flowers. I'll go over to the glyphs in Wingdings, and now I can see if there's any other flowers under Wingdings. And do I see flowers in Wingdings? Well, I see some stars. I see a flower-ish, bit stylized, and so on and so forth. So when you go down here, Wingdings 2, that was changing. I think Bodoni just didn't want. Here's Wingdings 2. I think there's Wingdings 3. No, this is just symbols. Anyway, so you start knowing your fonts, which of them have zaps, dingbats. There's another one that had little art. Those are the really, really old ones. Here's so there's quite a few that are just art. Anyway, so now I guess this is an O, and whatever this was. And Wingdings 3, this is what an O looks like. Anyway, so there you go. Now, for better or for worse, this makes it much easier. This will print in the long run much easier, but now it's also text, so it flows with text, right? So if this were flu or whatever, as you can see, you can keep adding it. And now I can also select it on its own and make it much bigger, much smaller. Maybe I'll make it be, 150 points, and I hit return. And so then, here's my entire flower. But when it's text like that, remember, I can't position it differently. So this is when in your type tool, it's shifting to shift and type. It gives you this other where you can now reposition it and maybe move. I don't know. I've never tried it with this one. I have no idea how this would work. I'm just playing around, but somehow this flower doesn't sit itself very nicely in this word. But there we go. Right? If I want to keep it as text, I don't like that solution at all. I was looking for a flower that's a bit more round to have it look like a flower. Now it looks like flower. I'm going to undo that. But you can play around with those. Whoops, those kind of things yourselves, and maybe that works better. I don't know. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. That kind of fits within the. I like that. Maybe I want to not make so much space. Actually, that kind of works. That does read like flowered to me a bit more than before. So anyway, you play around with things and figure out what. Okay, so that's just keeping it as text. Of course, you can do that here as well. If you were then to I'm going to control and switch that one, and then turn this one into outlines, right? Create outlines. Now it is art, right? Now it is all art. And then I can just modify this as art, right? And then just make the petals much taller or whatever it is that I want to do, because, suddenly this is art. So I can do that. And I don't know, I'm just inventing that. That it doesn't look like a no anymore. But anyway, okay. So those are all the different things that you can do to make something look like text. Now, something that's happening right now is I'm showing you, I'm using the guidelines, because usually if you want to distort things, yes, you can free flow, but ideally, if you look for things that help, like instead of putting that F there, if I would have put it there where these lines some line at least follows each other, for our brain, certain things help. Like if the tip of this line is where this one centers it, we kind of make a little bit more sense to us. That line goes with that. It doesn't need to be very tight and structured, but it helps our brain see things in a way that we think is more text-like, because text seems to usually follow a pattern. If you move things a lot around, you might end up with stuff that, and it's completely random where you put it, it might be harder to follow. So if you consider having guides, and I'm gonna, how to pull out guides, you have to have the rulers out. So I'm gonna say Command or Control R. See how I suddenly have rulers on the sides? So I can pull out a ruler here and make sure that this line here matches with that one. And then maybe I'm going to bet the bottoms of this W here touch that same line. You know what I mean? Like have some kind of reason. And I'm just inventing this one here. It doesn't need to be that, but it would help our brain if suddenly you don't know that that line was there, because we won't know it. I'm going to hide it to get rid of it. It's a Command or Control, and then we don't know why, but this is following a guideline. You know what I mean? Where it suddenly makes sense as to why it's looks better than if it would completely random reasoning. And it's just because I put a guideline to make sure that certain parts of this followed that pattern. It's just an example of how you can make things work better. What else? Okay, so now what I'd like is for, so I'm going to take a little picture of this, but actually I'm going to put it here where you can see the rulers. Where we pulled out rulers, you can have a ruler go high or low. So I'm grabbing from here and pulling out a ruler. Okay, put out a ruler, let it go, and there's you have a ruler. Now, if you don't want that ruler anymore, you can select it and hit delete to get rid of it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do like that so that you can see the rulers in my screenshot. There you go. And then when you don't want to have it anymore, you select it and you hit the delete key and you get rid of the rulers that way. Another way, you select it and you just put it back inside the ruler, like you put it away, and then your ruler goes away. All right. How are we doing? I have more stuff I can show you, but I want to make sure that everything that I've been doing is working for you guys. And if so, I want you guys to now maybe create a logo-ish kind of word of your own. I'm going to keep showing you a few other ways to distort things, but just as your homework, you can either use flower or you can use any other word that you want. But I want you guys to distort it beyond the basic text, right? To move it into outlines and do something that you couldn't have done with it if it were text. And it can be like, you know, the initials of a company. It can be initials of your name. It could be words like this. Clearly, I don't think that this font works for a flower. It's really intense, right? So now it's too late. It's already text. Like I can't do anything with it right now. This one, on the other hand, it's already outlines. But this one, which is similar, is still text, which is cool because now I can still change these others. Now, I don't want to change all of it because I don't want my little icon of my this to change from, see, it's Bodoni ornaments. So I'm going to go with this and I'm going to look for another font that might look better with the word flower. I don't know what. I'm playing around with other stuff. And maybe there, FL, what was that? Bradley Bold. I'll look for Bradley Bold again. And so that, you see what I mean? It might work better with the word flower than the big stiff word that I had before. But that said, remember it's Shift T to get your type tool. That's the one that allows me to then individually work with that. Or you might discover that you need to have lowercase. Oh, I added a T here, flower. This might be lowercase, flower, right? And then so on and so forth. So you can play around while it's still text versus here. you're stuck with, this is a shape. This is the shape that you converted into outlines, and you can't go back to making it a different font anymore. Does that make sense? So you have to see how much you do first before you convert to outlines, before you're stuck with it being just text. Now, I'm going to keep showing you some new things. I'm going to move this one over here, and I'm going to get close again. Effects that you can do. Let me just make this all a bit more flowery colored, just so that it's a bit more fun. But this you can do when it's not when it's type, but when it's shape. Okay, so remember, this one is still type, and the big way to when you select it is because the bounding box is showing you this little possibility of changing it into one type or another. But most importantly, there's still this baseline, versus when you click into these, it's a bounding box that doesn't have that little antenna-y thingy. And if you're not sure, you go into your layers, and if you select it, you can see over here that this is a group. It's the one that has a little icon. You open it up and you can see each one is a different letter. Okay, which, by the way, this is of course another way to work with each thing individually. You can select it like that, and then you have the R. You can just work with the R, and so on and so forth. You don't even have to do isolation mode. Isolation mode and layers is always equivalent. Sometimes one is easier than another, but instead of double clicking for isolation mode to go R to get into the R, you could just go over here and click on the R, or click on the E, or click on the W, right, to work on each one on their own. But what I want to show you is some other ways of making things, playing with things. Let me make this one be that orange. So there's some other effects, and this is a bit earlier on. I said, wait, I'm going to show you how to get a bit more of the feathered effect. Over here, we talked about how to get a bit more of a feathered effect to this, which is a very sharp line, remember? So let me show you how to do that. So I'm going to go into Illustrator, and let's go ahead and actually let's do any old shape here first to try it out, and then we can go back and do another. So I'm going to make a little, I don't know, an elliptical shape over here. Let's go ahead and make a couple of different circles. I'm going to select this, and I just want a couple of different shapes to show you some different effects. So I'm just copying and copying to have a couple of different shapes. Okay, I'm going to select one. And if you head over here, we've been showing you fill, stroke, opacity, effects. FX is an effect. I'm going to click on that, and there's just possible different effects that I can do, that I can play with. But there's, for the most part, is this the one where you can blur? So for example, let me see if I give this one a blur. And I've made it into a feathered shape. You see that? So this is the blur effect on something that was very sharp before, which I believe then, and let me head back to this shape, people who had the original. See how here you have something that's kind of a blurry shape at the beginning. So it almost seems like the bottom shape that does the little spikes is a sharp one, but on top of it, there's maybe like a little white circle that's blurred that kind of covers it on top. You see what I mean? So, and then it diffuses into this. This shape isn't what's blurred, but you know what I mean? But I think there's like a little circle here that's blurred on top of that it hides the bottom one. Either that or there's two of these, one on top of the other, and one is sharp, and then one on top of it has been blurred and it's a bit shorter, and thus you see that blur. I don't know, I would just see which one works, but I would think that mainly this is a blurred circle, or even that shape has been flipped and blurred right here. And that's why it's hiding that underneath we have the sharp one. That's just what I would try out if I were to want to guess what's happening on that one. Okay, so try that out, Taria, since you're here still figuring out, or someone had said they're trying to figure out how to do the trees and the the gradient colors and stuff like that. So I think that's what's happening down there. Back to Illustrator. So say that if this was my shape, I'm gonna and I think the original one is a bit more like that. I don't have it in front of me, but I'm just double clicking, right? So say that this is kind of that shape. It's not exactly right? But if I were to put this one on top of it, make it big, maybe make it white. No, a lighter yellow or something like that. And then this one here is an orange that fades to white. Give me gradient options. I'm going to go to this tool and make it go from, no, the other way, from light to white. And then this one is that same, was it blue? Trying to, all right, I need to go back because I don't have it in front of me, so I don't remember. No, where's the original one? Here. So it's a kind of a teal water, light teal, and then it kind of fades into white, and then over here you have this white, right? And this is actually more white than yellow. So back to Illustrator. So this teal, there was actually a box behind it, which would be the ocean. That was just teal. I think that was an example, right, of this being the ocean. I'm trying to put it behind. Okay. And then if this was a little bit white or something like that. It's bigger, and I would have to make the blur, the Gaussian blur. Can I re-blur it? I'm gonna go to the effects and make it even blurrier. Something like that. Does that make sense? It's kind of blurring itself. And then of course, on top of that, we have the half sun, which I'm guessing at this, you guys. Here's the half sun that's setting itself up there. Do you remember how we would cut this in half? We'd make a box, select both, and then with the Pathfinder tool, we'll get rid of all of this, right? Something like that. And then this maybe is actually lighter. It's a bit more opaque, or maybe it has its own gradient down there. Does that make sense? Kind of what I did here. This is that half sun. This is the ocean with, I made a gradient on this fill, right? And then this probably would do better with the gradient as well. Anyway, I'd have to create its own gradient to slowly go from blue to white, very light blue to white. So let's see. I'm going to turn this into a gradient. So anyway, I'm just playing around with that, but with all the things I've taught you, you can play around with different things. But let's see if I do this same one and I try to make it be in this direction. Oh, no, in that direction. colored to white. Yeah, I think that would be best. And then this color is that color. Yeah, that might work better. Just slowly get it to gradate into white or something like that. I think something like that. Maybe I don't have to make it so opaque at the end. Maybe this is a bit less opacity. Yeah, it sounds a bit more like it. There you go. So now I've kind of slowly faded this out. I guess I could fade this one even bigger. I think I need to fade my white a bit sooner. Maybe it's not even white. Maybe it's white yellow. All right. So once again, what I've been trying to show is this kind of thing. Oh, it's much less intense. It's more centralized. Okay. So this is something that's only intense there and not over there. So anyway, you keep playing with it, right? Until you get kind of this effect. It's 2 minutes more. So let me show you a couple more effects and then you guys can keep playing. So I put that over there. I'm going to make a couple more of these. Hold on. So that I can, oh, hold on, the Alt key. Okay, let me move this a bit out of the way. I'm going to group it, all these things that I just made. I'm going to group them and push them out for a little bit. I'm going to select this and then watch. Beyond those effects that I showed you there, there's another set of tools that we do not have here, that I'm missing. First of all, I'm going to give this a stroke instead of no stroke. I'm going to make it bright color so we can see it happening really well. Make it a big stroke. Okay, so watch, there's this tool here, right under the eyedropper. It changes the width of your stroke. So in this case, it's a closed circle. So I can, with that tool in hand, let me zoom in. I can make the stroke go wider or skinnier, thinner. See, I can make it go in and out, even wider and even, so I can really play with that stroke to have it be a different kind of shape. So I put my mouse on the stroke and I make it wider or skinnier or thinner. Okay, so that's a tool that changes your stroke. Now, if this had been just a line, so maybe it's a pencil line that does that, then I go with my stroke and I can do that, right? So I can grab this tip and make it really skinny, or I can have it be wide in the middle and then make it be skinny again at the end. So this is just a stroke that I have played around with this tool that shifts the width of a stroke. So I did it a bit randomly here. But I could have also done it. So here I'm going to actually do this one again with a plain stroke. And then a more typical use of this would be maybe just like that. Okay. So play around with those effects. So that's this tool. If you hover over it, it's called the width tool, right? Vary the thickness of the strokes along their path. So anything from a stroke on a shape or a stroke on its own. That's not even, on a shape or whatever, you can do that with. And then I can actually grab this, and since it's a path, right, I can keep playing around with it as a path to play around. Okay, so that's that. Now there's a couple of other things we can do to play with the edges, and I used to get them from under this one. You had a ton of different tools, but they're gone. And I believe they might still be. Yeah, here they are. They are under the distorted transform. Okay, so I'm going to select this guy again. And then under the distort and transform, you have some other fun ones. And there's more than these, but I'm going to grab this little zigzag, for example. And I can change it this is interesting because that's the same as a star. So let me cancel that because that wasn't the intention. The zigzag is not what I want. I wanted the crystal. Here's a twist. Huh. Huh. This is not the one I was looking for. I was interested in that, but look at that. It kind of, this is kind of cool because it's a circle that isn't really a circle. So it looks like it's more handmade. This isn't the one I was trying to show you, but see how you have a circle that looks like more like it's a hand-drawn one because I changed the shape a little bit. You know, sometimes things look very mathematical. And if you want it to look like it's a hand-drawn circle for a flower, for example, this is clearly not that, which is a perfect circle. It's an almost perfect circle. So I didn't know that that's what that one would do. So that's interesting. I'm still looking for one that's, so these are giving me different to roughen, right? So I can have it more detailed, less detailed. I can create little cracks, sharp shapes, play around. I can smooth them out. I can make it a bit more cornery. Okay, so as you can see, I can do tons of shapes with this. By the time I play between this and that, I can have anything that I want. Now imagine if I'm doing this to one of these letters, right? I don't know, to the W. Let me just go to the individual ones that I'm doing weird stuff with up here. And I'm doing it to this flower here, for example, and I can do it to all the letters at once. I go to the distort and transform, and I'm going to go to, is it roughen that I just did? And I'm going to go with a little tiny bit of distortion, not a ton, right? And so as you can see, I'm just pointing stuff out. There's so many different things you can do that I don't necessarily, can't show you all of it. I know it's 10:14 and I've left you over again. So there's that. I'm going to choose one more over here and show you the tweak. Now, you know, kind of like change shapes a little bit, but not so much as the other one. So anyway, you play around with all these different choices and you can do different things happen. You can make it move that way, horizontal or vertical. So this is for more random shapes. I miss that in the other, again, Essentials Classic. Let me show you what Essentials Classic had. I've shifted again, but under this one, there's a bunch of other tools. So I'm going to grab, for example, the scallop tool right here. And I'm going to run it over. I needed to have something selected first. So there we go. I'm going to choose the scallop tool. And then I can go over here and I can just begin to, you know, play around with the shapes of something. Oh, that one, there's so many things around that it's not necessarily working too well, but I can. Did I select it yet? Oh, because I selected the other one. That's why it wasn't working. The crystallize tool. It's kind of like that one. It bursts things open. This one's kind of fun. The twirl tool. It twirls things. It can make little tiny or not, depending on how long you hold it. So if I hold it a little bit, it gives it a little twirl. If I hold it a lot, I'm getting little twirlies out of it, right? Oh, I didn't mean to undo so much. There we go. If you have a small shape and I can wait, I got to select it first. Here we go. I go to my twirls and I can just make it. I'm trying to, there we go. If you put the edge of it only on something, then you can make like a little circle come out of there. I don't know. I'm just showing you different kind of funky stuff that can be done with those tools. So these tools, if you want to turn them on, I went to this Essentials Classic, and then under the same width tool, that the first one was the width tool, but then you can play around with these guys. The wrinkle tool. There we go. I'm wrinkling things. All right. So play around with all these different shapes. Let's do another screenshot with some of this stuff. And some of this stuff, and then I'll let you guys go because it's way past time. And I know y'all have stuff to do. Any questions? Save the file. I want you guys to either make a whole word kind of logo, a logo maybe kind of thing with just symbols or just a few letters, some distortions of shape. So basically, I want you to guys show me a little bit of all of this. And then if you can, keep working on one of the many possible complete art pieces that we have, and then show them, post them, okay? Let me put the link to the Illustrator here again, so you guys can click on it one more time before we close the class. So click on that link to open the Padlet, and then post your different screenshots with a bit of a description of what we've been doing. And wow, I've passed by 8 minutes. So any questions? Now I'm finally looking at the camera. All this time I'm looking at the screens. You've been looking at the bottom of me. Any questions? Anything you want to ask or share or do? No. All right. So do your best to do some work. Okay. Post some work and show me how you use it. Again, it doesn't need to be great, beautiful, creative. Just show me the use of them, that you're doing it on something of your own. And if it's awesome, wonderful. And if it's not, wonderful as well. I just want to see you guys using it, because then you'll have actual questions. Okay. And so Tadia, did you get your question was how to put the gradient on that tree?
Yes.
You kind of figured it out now, or do you still have that? You have that. Okay. All right. Bye then.
Thanks. Bye.
See you in a week, and some of you during the week in other classes. Bye.